blasted off from 39A until the very last.
Start. T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All three engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff. The final liftoff of Atlantis on the shoulders of the space shuttle. America will continue the dream.
Roger, roll, Atlantis.
With the fleet retired, demolition crews removed the shuttle-era hardware to clear the way for NASA's monumental decision to lease this historic launch site to the private company SpaceX. Today, its sleek and modern design supports a family of rockets that has advanced the commercial age of American spaceflight. Now, 50 years after it first sent humans to the moon, this historic spaceport stands ready for the next wave of human exploration.
And we're looking live again at pad 39A. We're looking at the pad closeout team. You can identify them by their numbers there. And we heard confirmation of the hatch being closed just a few minutes ago. So again, things a little bit ahead of schedule. And when I say ahead of schedule, I don't mean the launch time is changing. I just mean some of the specific milestones in the timeline. Those times are a little bit flexible, but that launch window remains instantaneous at 3:22 this afternoon. And Leland, you know, we just saw a piece about the history of pad 39A.
All stations, Chief Engineer on countdown 1 for comm check with the crew.
We're going to pause for that comm check.
Falcon 9, guidance, navigation, and control.
Dragon GNC on countdown 1, comm check.
GNC Dragon, we have you loud and clear.
GNC loud and clear. Stand by for comm check by the propulsion engineer.
Dragon, prop on countdown 1, comm check.
Prop Dragon, loud and clear.
Prop loud and clear, stand by for comm check with the avionics engineer.
Dragon, avionics on countdown 1, comm check.
Avionics Dragon, loud and clear.
Avionics loud and clear, stand by for comm check by ground segment engineer.
Dragon, ground segment on countdown 1, comm check.
Ground segment Dragon, loud and clear.
Ground segment loud and clear, stand by for comm check by launch control.
Dragon, launch control on countdown 1, comm check.
Launch control Dragon, loud and clear.
Launch control loud and clear, stand by for comm check by the chief engineer. Dragon, chief engineer on countdown 1, comm check.
Chief Engineer Dragon, we've got you loud and clear, Bala.
Chief engineer, loud and clear. This completes the Falcon 9 responsible engineer comm check.
And we just saw a thumbs up from Doug Hurley. We listened to a series of comms checks there, and so everything.
Dragon, chief engineer on Dragon to ground.
Loud and clear on Dragon to ground.
Loud and clear. Well, good luck, and let's see if the rain clears up.
That sentiment is shared by all here.
Do it.
Copy that.
So Bob and Doug, along with the launch teams and all of the rest of America, hoping the rain clears up here. But as far as comms checks go, everything sounded pretty normal, pretty nominal there. So we're just waiting on the weather to clear up. But again, there's a live look at Launch Complex 39A, the site of 82 space shuttle missions where they began, and of course Apollo, the first mission to the moon, Apollo 11 lifted off from 39A. And Leland, you were just 5 years old when that happened. Take us back there.
Marie and Lauren, I was 5, and I was the antenna engineer during the broadcast. I was the kid standing behind the black and white Sylvania television holding the rabbit ears, and my dad said, move to the left, move to the right. And I was trying to look around the television to see what was going on, but they said, no, don't move, stay there. So I never actually saw the actual landing on the moon, Neil and Buzz walking on the moon. And the next day, all the my friends in my community were like, yeah, you want to be an astronaut? We just had this momentous thing. And I said, no. I didn't see it. I want to be Arthur Ashe, because Arthur Ashe trained 5 blocks down the street from where I grew up. And my dad talked about his excellence, his perseverance, his athleticism. And so it wasn't until I got to NASA, working as an engineer at NASA Langley, that a friend of mine said, you'd be a great astronaut. And I just laughed at him. And I didn't fill the application out, but another friend of mine got in, Charlie Camarda. And I said, if he can become an astronaut, I can become one. So I applied the next year and I got in the 1998 class. And I think about this, again, storied legacy, Pad 39A. I was there in 2008 and 2009, Space Shuttle Atlantis, the last one that came in with Doug and the rest of the crew. And it's just an amazing time to see this new era with Lauren, with your SpaceX Crew Dragon about to take off.
I never heard that story.
I've got a million stories. A million stories.
Wow. And it's so cool that you do have a lot of these kids that are watching today who have never seen a flight, a human space flight from KSC before. And this is their first time. And I'm trying to remember back, I grew up in the shuttle era, and I grew up in Los Angeles, and I remember sometimes when the shuttle would land at Edwards Air Force Base, you'd hear those sonic booms,
double
and
sonic boom.
you hear the double sonic booms in school, and we all just knew, oh, that's the space shuttle. It was just a thing. We just knew about that. And it did make me sad that there's an entire generation of kids who didn't grow up with that experience. And I'm just so proud that, today, hopefully, we get to provide that for kids and hopefully have more and more of these launches to the point where it becomes routine, hopefully never boring, but routine.
And there's talent in every zip code, so we have to make sure that every kid has the opportunity to do these types of things. If they believe in themselves, then we give them the right tools that they can use to be in STEM fields. And we have a very diverse group of people up here working together to get Bob and Doug off safely. And I think more people that see this type of diversity will have a chance to say, I can do that too.
Yes. Absolutely. And we have a lot of kids watching today, and we have an opportunity to hear from another really awesome role model, especially for the little girls in the audience. So we want to throw it over to Gary in Houston to talk to a very special astronaut standing by there. Hi, Gary.
Hi, Marie. I have the distinct pleasure of being joined by one of NASA's record-setting astronauts and a recent resident aboard the space station, Christina Cook. Christina, thank you for joining us.
It's great to be with you today.
Christina, we're coming up on 20 years of continuous human presence on the International Space Station, and you were one of those humans. What's it like to see a new milestone like this launch unfold after so much history already?
You're right, so much history indeed, and it's just been great to watch it all unfold. I think for me, the most exciting thing is how NASA is not only innovating in what we do, exploring the universe, pushing the boundaries, getting knowledge on the space station, bringing it back to Earth for benefits here, but in how we do it. We're innovating in the implementation of those goals and of our mission. And what that means is that bringing in the private sector, bringing in a commercial space economy for low Earth orbit, means space is going to be more accessible and more innovative. And it's just an awesome new era of history to be able to witness.
You hold the record for the longest single stay by a female astronaut in space. What's it like living aboard for so long?
Well, it is truly a privilege every single day. I have to say it's a beautiful thing to look down on the Earth and to be able to kind of contribute to a space program that you yourself have held in such high regard your entire life. I would say that the biggest challenge going into sort of those longer times is remaining vigilant. The engineers make it so easy to live on board the space station. Sometimes you forget you're actually surrounded by such a hostile environment. So remaining vigilant both day to day to have that appreciation that you wake up with every day, And then also being vigilant, knowing that things could take a turn for the worse at any time, and you have to be ready to react to that. So it's a great privilege, but it also comes with great responsibility.
You came to NASA after the days of the shuttle program, and you flew on the Russian Soyuz. What does it mean to have this private capability to fly astronauts to the station?
Well, I think it's just a great innovation in terms of our partnerships. You know, when we started out, it was individual countries pursuing the space exploration. We brought in the international aspect of it, and now we're really folding in that commercial aspect, bringing the innovation of all of our American industrial power and recognizing that the more partnerships we have, the more accessible, the more innovative space exploration can be. So it's an awesome time, and it brings with it so much more capability into the program as well. So it's not only how we're doing it, but it's what it brings.
We're looking forward to having this transportation from private companies. How does it help you do your job in space?
You know, I think one concept that we have in NASA for safety and to mitigate risk is called dissimilar redundancy. And here now we're bringing up a whole second way of getting crew to the International Space Station and getting cargo, last-minute cargo. So we're increasing how much science we can do on board the space station by twofold. We're increasing how we can, you know, our options for getting items up, stowage items, supplies, provisions, science experiments. So we're really just banking on the extra redundancy to make the program that much more robust.
We're watching Bob and Doug go through the final phases of preparing for this launch. What's going through your mind so close to liftoff?
Oh, it is such a great day indeed. You know, it's interesting because I think it's not so much what is going through your mind, but what's not going through your mind. You know, you're not thinking about all the things could go wrong. You're thinking about enabling success by doing what you've been trained to do. One of the sayings we have is that on launch day, astronauts are sometimes the most calm people in the room. And I found that to be true on my launch day too. I think it's kind of this career culmination of everything you've learned, everything you've dreamed of, and you know that it's coming together in that day and that you're going to finally do what you're prepared to do, execute the mission, and it just really brings a sense of calm and readiness.
NASA astronaut Christina Cook, always an honor to hear from you.
Thank you. Great to be with you.
Well, once Bob and Doug arrive at the station, NASA astronaut Chris Cassidy will be ready to welcome them on board. So in anticipation of their launch, he had this message for them.
Hello, everyone. I'm astronaut Chris Cassidy, commander of Expedition 63 on board the International Space Station, flying 250 miles above the Earth. Like you, I'm excited about today's launch and the possibilities it will bring to America and to the world. But also, I'm very excited that two close friends will be arriving and joining the crew. I had the privilege of flying with Doug Hurley on both of our first shuttle missions back in 2009. Together, we came to the International Space Station and helped construct the amazing facility that it is today. Although this will be my first mission with Bob, it was my honor to follow him as the chief of the office when he left back in 2015 to begin training for this amazing mission. Personally, I've been very fortunate to fly in two different spacecraft. Launching from America on the shuttle, and most recently launching from Kazakhstan in the Soyuz. But I can't tell you how exciting it is to know that we're once again launching Americans from the coast of Florida. And finally, here's a story I'd like to share with you. Back in 1981, John Young and Bob Crippen launched on Space Shuttle Columbia, the very first space shuttle flight, marking the last time we flew Americans on a brand new vehicle.
434, Mike, Q-48. Roger.
With them, they flew an American flag, representing America's technical prowess.
Roger roll, Atlantis.
30 years later, that same flag was flown to the International Space Station. This flag remains here today, waiting for Bob and Doug. Our flag means so many things to our country, and this small piece of America represents what we'll be able to achieve together. We'll never stop exploring. And so Bob and Doug can take this very special flag home to Earth, where it awaits its next journey to the cosmos. In a few years, the first Orion crew will take this flag with it around the moon. All of this starts today. I'll be watching outside the window along with everyone else in America and around the world. I can't wait to look out the window and see my friends on close approach. Go Falcon 9, go Dragon, and go Bob and Doug. I'll see you soon.
And there again is a live look at Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy Space Center in Florida, where we are T-minus 1 hour, 41 minutes, 58 seconds and counting from liftoff of the Falcon 9 rocket carrying Crew Dragon with astronauts Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley strapped inside. We can see some raindrops on the screen there. It looks like rain coming down at the pad, but we're still monitoring weather, and it sounds like there's going to be another decision point before they start fueling the Falcon 9 rocket, which is scheduled to happen at about T-minus 35 minutes. So we just heard a little bit about where they're headed. If the weather cooperates today, to the International Space Station. Leland, you've been there twice, and I know just from what you've told us, it's this Leviathan in space and the site of so much important work and partnerships happening.
Right. Chris Cassidy is up there floating in the Columbus laboratory that I installed, or our team of us installed on STS-122. And I think about, using this robotic arm that was made in Canada. The European Space Agency built the Columbus laboratory, and my job was to use that arm and attach it to the International Space Station. And as it was getting closer and closer, the motion just stopped. And I'm like, what is going on? And there are 4 ready-to-latch indicators that have a very slight spring force that I was moving so slowly with the hand controller, the translational hand controller, that spring force stalled out the motion. And Peggy Whitson was behind me, and she said,
SpaceX
Leland,
weather
there's
update.
some commentary. Weather update, I think.
Go ahead, sir.
Hey, Doug. We're still waiting for a weather update expected at 18 Zulu. Therefore, the next assessment will be closer to the propellant load time. We are currently no-go on launch weather, but we are showing an expected clear of 1830 Zulu.
Okay, copy all. Thanks for the update.
So we just heard if they were to launch right now, the weather would be no-go. However, it sounds like there may be an opportunity if the weather clears, as it sounds like they expect it may. So again, we're gonna keep listening as we continue talking. If we start to hear any kind of chatter, especially if it's about the weather, we're gonna do our best to quiet down so that we don't step on that and everyone can hear it along with us. But Leland, you were just talking about the work on station, and Peggy Whitson was getting ready to tell you something.
Well, so the Columbus laboratory is stalled out. It's about to be attached, and there were 10,000 people waiting. Their job security depended on me installing this thing properly.
Right.
And Peggy said, Leland, push just a little bit harder on the hand controller, and all 4 ready-to-latch indicators went green. And I was like, yes! And that was our primary mission objective. But that paled in comparison to what happened next. Peggy invited us over to dinner in the Russian segment, and we had this meal with people from all over the world, Russian, German, French, African American, Asian American. This diversity that we talked about earlier, were up there breaking bread at 17,500 miles per hour while listening to Sade's Smooth Operator.
What?
It blew my mind. It was Smooth Operator, right?
What an appropriate song for the,
I know.
for the job too, right?
Wow, does she know? She knows
Oh,
now.
yeah. And Dan Tani actually changed the song from Smooth Operator to Arm Operator. So you see Arm Operator.
I love it. Love it. And Leland, you actually, we were in another taped segment when you got a text from Drew Foystel. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, Drew Foystel, his good friend, just sent me a text saying that the families say hello to all who are watching and thank the nation and the world for their support and interest. And Chris Ferguson just actually sent me a text. He was the commander on STS-135 and one of my classmates from the 1998 class, and he says, way to go, Godspeed on Crew Dragon.
That's awesome. It's great to hear those words of support. Thank you guys for watching, and everybody following along at home. I mean, the COVID-19 situation has been just a tough time for people stuck inside, homeschooling their kids, still trying to do their jobs, and so it's really cool to be able to watch this happening. And we see the pad closeout team. It looks like they are getting ready, or they've left the white room and they've already come down the crew access arm, so they are getting ready to leave the pad now. And we are going to go now to the Operations and Support Building 2, where Daryl Nail is standing by with NASA's Chief of Staff to talk to us a little bit about some of NASA's ambitions beyond the International Space Station and its work with the Commercial Crew Program. Daryl?
Yeah, that's right. We're here in the mission briefing room at the top of Operations and Support Building here, where there's a lot of important people that are gathering to watch the launch here. And one of those people, it's not me, by the way, one of those people that is important is Gabe Sherman, NASA's Chief of Staff. We appreciate you being here.
Hey, thanks for having me, Daryl.
You got kind of the insight of what's coming down the pike here at NASA. So of course today is Commercial Crew, and we're focused on that and seeding the commercial market. But what's off in the horizon for NASA?
Well, I'll just tell you, it's an incredibly exciting time to be at NASA, and you know this. I mean, you're here every day. But whenever you think about what we're doing with Commercial Crew, you know, in the horizon in July, we're launching Mars Perseverance, which is just going to be an incredible thing for us. You look at the end of this year, you know, SLS, the largest rocket in the world, is going through testing right now, going through green run testing, and we're hoping maybe by the end of the year we could even get it right out here to the Cape, which would be just an incredible achievement for our team. So
hey everyone,
there is no
TJ here. I'm just getting this started a little bit early. I appreciate everybody's patience. Today we will have myself and Marcus House hosting this live stream. Our good friend Felix is not able to join the stream today because bad internet connection at his hotel room. He's on vacation with his family, so a well-deserved vacation, so he will be watching along with us. I do have a quick message from Felix that I'd like to show you, play for you right now.
Good evening, everybody. As you might have noticed by now,
That was upside down. I don't know why that was upside down. Let me try to fix that. Why would it come back? Was it upside down for you all? Maybe I am losing my mind. But it did look upside down in my player. Let me remove that. Re-add it. Dang, I had that all set up too. Oh boy. Yep, it was upside down for everybody else. Okay, well. Oops. I did not transcode it, so I'm not sure if that is why. Alright. Okay. Trying it again. Sorry, Felix.
Good evening, everybody.
And it's upside down. What am I doing? Let's just watch it upside. Oh, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to rotate it. Oh my god, this is like so bad. We're going to rotate it one. Okay, I flipped it. Let's just do this thing.
Good evening, everybody. As you might have noticed by now, I'm not on the stream.
I promise I know I'm a professional. I feel very sad right now. I might be because of the file format, so we're going to. Yeah, it's like the Starship tests. Yeah. Sorry, everybody. So yeah, weather today, not looking awesome. Not looking bad, not looking awesome. As I said earlier, we are currently in a no-go weather scenario. There's some overcast here. There is some lightning spotted in the distance. The trajectory of the launch is going to be somewhat this direction, and the booster is going to land up over here. So they are going to be flying, you know, in a north-northeast trajectory. So we are just going to have to be patient, and hopefully the weather holds out. But NASA is being, you know, optimistic about all this. But while I am converting this, I did want to also let everybody know I made a mistake in the last live stream. And I had somebody on Twitter actually correct me. And thank you for that. I want to make sure that I am a good source for all kinds of information, space related. And it was this person named
Good evening, everybody. As you might have noticed by now,
the handle
I'm not
that you
on the
see
stream.
on the control
It's because
panel
the internet connection
of
in the
Crew
hotel room
Dragon
was not nearly fast enough to do
is,
any streaming. I was able to send a video though, so I'm really, really sorry that I can't join tonight. But you've got... Good evening, everybody.
Okay, sorry.
As you might have noticed by now, I'm not on the stream.
I don't know why this is being weird. So but you saw the controller on Crew Dragon is the hand controller is actually the launch abort mechanism. You twist and pull that. Crew Dragon does not have the handle that you would see on Starliner. Starliner capsule interior, which is based off of basically what you saw on the shuttle. This SpaceX's control system is completely through the touchscreen. So control panel. Right. So this guy right here does not exist on Crew Dragon, but this is the same exact type of system that was on Shuttle. And you'll see here in the middle they also have a launch abort twist and pull mechanism. So wanna own it there. Apologies for making that mistake. You know, we read a lot about space stuff and just want to make sure everybody was aware. Inside a black hole, yeah. OBS. So now I'm out of focus. Now I'm in focus. I'm a hot mess. My apologies. So I'm gonna cut to the SpaceX stream just for a minute here while I convert Felix's file, and I will be back shortly. Let me get this queued up.
I will have an opportunity soon to get on board one of those spaceships.
I very much hope so. Yeah.
So speaking of reusability and landing, I know you mentioned Starship will be refuelable in orbit, but Falcon does come back and land back on Earth. What are the challenges with actually landing on the moon and landing on a planet like Mars?
Yeah, well, you can't land like a plane because the moon and the Mars either have no atmosphere or have a very thin atmosphere, and even if you could, there's no runway that someone's built for you. So that's one of the reasons that we do propulsive landing on Falcon, because we want to figure out how to do propulsive landing. That fundamental architecture works on basically any planet. If you have no atmosphere like the moon, you do a propulsive landing burn all the way. If you have a thick atmosphere like Earth, you let the atmosphere slow you down as you float down, then do a short landing burn at the end. And for Mars, which has an atmosphere but a very thin one, you do something in between the two.
Wow, yeah, that sounds really difficult, and I'm sure there's been a lot of effort put into that. Can you tell us anything about what we're working on now to get us to a point where we can do a landing like that in such a harsh environment?
Yeah, so figuring out propulsive landing is really the key part of it. But what people may not realize is that every time we bring Falcon back, we do something called an entry burn. So just before we hit the atmosphere, we light the engines to slow the rocket down. That happens high up where the air is very thin. And it just so happens that the conditions there are very similar to what a Mars landing burn would look like. So even though it takes months to get to Mars, and you can only do it every 2 years when the planets line up, we effectively get to practice Mars propulsive landing every time we bring Falcon back, including, hopefully, today.
Wow. And as you mentioned, every time we bring Falcon back, we learn something new. Can you tell us a little bit more about what we learn after the vehicle has returned and we're able to check out the vehicle?
Yeah, so Jessica actually mentioned this earlier, that I talked about how cost is really one benefit of reusability, but reliability is the other benefit. I mean, imagine that you do all this planning to send a rocket up through the rigors of launch and re-entry, but you don't get to see the rocket afterwards. And what we would like to do with the reusability, what we've been able to do with Falcon 9, is see the rocket, inspect it, and because of that, we've been able to correlate our models pre-flight to what actually happens when you launch, re-enter, and land a rocket.
Right, instead of just guessing what happens.
All right, everybody, I was able to fix the file, so here is Felix's message to the What About It folks.
Good evening, everybody. As you might have noticed by now, I'm...
Okay, you just have to believe me that he was really sorry that he couldn't make it, that the weather was not good, not the weather, the internet was not good, and he had to scrub his live stream. I don't know why this isn't working. My OBS is not having it.
Reusability is a really, really important part of that. Imagine if every time you flew a plane from LA to New York, you threw it away at the end of the flight. That means essentially airline travel would be too expensive, costing hundreds of millions of dollars a flight.
We are just going to hang out and watch the stream together while we wait for Marcus to join us, and we have a really special guest that I am looking forward to you all meeting. It would be Scott Parazynski, 5-time Shuttle Astronaut and spacewalker. He's been to the space station several times, helped assemble it. One time on a spacewalk with Chris Hadfield, which he's got some really great stories, so he can really provide some more context of the astronaut point of view that we have lots of questions about. So we're just going to hang out, hopefully cross our fingers for good weather, and I know that when Marcus gets on board, we'll have a lot of great things to talk about.
Wow, that's a pretty interesting destination. I think I would like to go to Mars. We've studied Mars so much and looked at it, and I think maybe having a Martian base that is dog friendly, bring the pups along, because I think as we explore, we want to take our families, our cultures, our traditions, with us, and flying with Doug and Bob is cool, but having more people,
There's the dogs.
the puppers, taking the puppers to space. I mean, they're not.
They look ready to go.
They are ready to go. We just needed maybe some like SpaceX type suits for them, But it's that's what it's all about, exploration. Like the settlers going west, they took everything with them, and they started these new communities and these new traditions. And I think that's what we do with space travel. We start new traditions and communities and bring everyone together as one family, one civilization.
Leland is just the
We're
man.
here for it. And
He is
knowing
as
that the
real in
opportunity
person
to
as
fly to
he
space
comes
as a
across on
private
camera.
Citizen is really just right around the corner. We have a new poll question on Twitter for you. If given the opportunity to fly to
Let's
the
see if
moon,
I can pull
now
up
we're
our
talking
picture
the moon,
we have
would you
together.
fly to the South Pole where no one has ever been, or would you go to the Apollo 11 landing site? So those are going to be some interesting answers.
And while there is not a ton of cargo on today's mission, Dragon is carrying 2 very special payloads, aside from Bob and Doug, of course. The first of those payloads is a series of custom art pieces entitled Humankind by Los Angeles artist Tristan Eaton. These indestructible, double-sided paintings made from gold, brass, and aluminum celebrate how far humanity has come, as well as how far we still have to go. It includes a beautiful homage to the Saturn V rocket, as well as a nod to Bob and Doug's current ride to space. And you can find more images and information about these pieces on SpaceX's social channels. Next, in the spirit of inspiring the next generation of explorers, we wanted to celebrate the class of 2020, from kindergarten all the way to graduate school. So SpaceX and NASA invited students from around the world to submit their photo to fly on America's first human spaceflight in nearly a decade. Each graduate's photo was used to create a mosaic image of our beautiful planet Earth, which we printed, and it's now being flown aboard Bob and Doug's flight on the Crew Dragon spacecraft. We received nearly 100,000 photos. That's a ton, so thank you.
Yeah, they really hammer home the Apollo space site thing, launch site thing. Here's my picture with me and Leland after we filmed our little documentary together. Great guy.
And again, that's what it's all about, everyone coming together with their experiences and bringing them forward to space. And I think regular people flying to space. I mean, SpaceX is going to be flying, you know, non-government people, non-military people, but people that have a desire to explore and do new things and traditions off planet, as we say sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, all this time since we've had the International Space Station, it's been government astronauts performing the research because you're the only ones we've been able to send, right? But
well, we've
I mean,
had some tourists, though. We've had people that paid their way on a Soyuz rocket.
Sure.
Go. But it's really the billionaire boys club. You know, that's what Pharrell talks about with, you know, it costs so much money to go to space, and I think that price point will come down as we make this more, you know, more amenable for everyday people.
Absolutely.
And eventually being able to fly artists and musicians and poets, people can tell the story of what they've seen out there in a way that really connects to the soul of people down on Earth, so they feel inspired to go.
Exactly.
Now, following today's mission, we will be one step closer to a future where we can all have that opportunity to gain the orbital perspective and explore new worlds. In just over an hour from now, Bob and Doug will be the first people to launch on an American vehicle in almost a decade. And for the SpaceX team, if I can try to speak for all of us, which is impossible, but I will say it has been an absolute honor to have the opportunity today to have this stage to show the world what we've poured our hearts into over the years with our partners at NASA. And it's just deeply humbling to know that the agency and that Bob and Doug have entrusted us with this critical mission. The responsibility that's on our shoulders is huge, and we're just so grateful to be here today.
Absolutely, and I know that, you know, our NASA teams really share in that sentiment. We're
currently looking at about T-minus 1 hour, 20 minutes. No update on the weather as of yet. Please keep it clean in the chat. That if you are inappropriate, you will be banned. If you guys have any questions, just leave them in the chat. I wish I had more to update you all on, but this is a lot of what we went through earlier this week.
To troubleshoot and solve problems and get us to this point. So
you know, the NASA folks are trying to kill time right now.
When you think about
last time they killed the launch, they didn't kill the launch, but they scrubbed the launch at T-minus 17 minutes. They do have the final weather go no go, I think, at T-minus 18 or 19 minutes. So my gut is that they're going to ride it out till then this time as well. So we have another hour here of the crew hanging out in the capsule. We have about 30 minutes until the crew access arm pulls away from the capsule. So this is just a chill. We're in the chill zone right now. So let me know in the chat if y'all have any questions. I'm happy to help you out. And yeah, we're just in this together right now, crossing our fingers, hoping we go to space today.
This is the first time a U.S.-built rocket has taken people into space in 9 years. It's quite an accomplishment. So for us at the Planetary Society, more rockets means more exploration. More people in space means more exploration. More countries involved in the endeavor of spaceflight means more. This is how we know the cosmos.
So we got some good questions in the chat already. Thank you. So, will the astronauts be going to the space station today? They'll get there tomorrow. It's a pretty short trip. I don't know how many hours it is, but they'll be arriving tomorrow if all goes well today.
Two very recognizable faces following along on the mission. And we want to go over to Dan and Jesse in Hawthorne, where we are now just 1 hour and 18 minutes from launch. Dan, Jesse?
1 hour, 18 minutes. I think we're tying ourselves in knots, just like Captain Kirk. We're really hoping the weather cooperates. In about 20 minutes or so, we might clear. So we're getting hopeful. We're getting our hopes up.
Yes. Very excited. Again, we're T-minus 1 hour and 18 minutes from launch, and the anticipation is real over here. Since arriving at the spacecraft, Bob and Doug were helped by our closeout engineers to get into their seats, attach their suits to special umbilicals that provide breathing air, pressurized nitrox, and a communications link to Dragon systems. They conducted leak checks, which were successful, and communications checks with the Corps here in Hawthorne, which is the person who will speak to them directly throughout the mission, as well as the launch director in Florida. This is where they are checking their comm path through both ground stations and the tracking and data relay satellites that we'll use to talk to the crew the entire way to the station.
And after all of those suit leak checks were successful, the closeout team was able to get out of the Dragon capsule and seal up that hatch, which also got its own leak check and was confirmed successful. At this point, the closeout team is out of the pad. They're away from the BDA, the blast danger area, and weather operators are about to kick off their final checks on wind speeds at the pad, which are going to be used during the final go, no go for launch. So we're all keeping eyes on the weather right now. Before we get to that final go, no go, all the various teams at both NASA and SpaceX are going to do internal go polls, just making sure conditions are right with Falcon 9, the Dragon, the crew, the range, and the space station before the final go is given. So let's check back in with the man over in Houston, Gary, for a status and the team supporting the space station for their readiness for launch.
Thanks, Dan. The team here in Mission Control Houston remains go for launch. We're also very hopeful about that weather. All systems on board the station that are required to be healthy for this mission are continuing to look good. Chris Cassidy is wrapping up his workday, and we'll be watching Bob and Doug launch here in just under an hour.
Okay, so I think I got the Felix file working now, so a message from Felix.
Good evening, everybody. As you might have noticed by now, I'm not...
I am sorry.
Good evening, everybody. As you might have noticed by now, I'm not on the stream. It's because the internet connection in the hotel room was not nearly fast enough to do any streaming. I was able to send a video though, so I'm really, really sorry that I can't join tonight. But you've got TJ and Marcus who are going to give you an absolutely awesome evening, and hopefully I'll be watching the stream if the buffering isn't too crazy. So let's cross our fingers for tonight that it's going to be an absolutely awesome launch. And yeah, like I said, I'm sorry. Enjoy the evening, everybody. Goodbye.
I'm sorry, everybody. That file is just not having a good time. But hopefully you're able to hear Felix's message. He is not able to be here today, but he is in the chat with the What About It folks, and he'll be there through the entire launch. If you have questions for him, please run it by him. And he also has What About Its Auxiliary Control Center. I am not sure what you're talking about. But anyways, apologies for the technical snafu. I'm trying my best over here, running and gunning on my own, but we'll just hop back to the SpaceX stream, and I'll chime in if we have any more updates to get back to you all on.
Launch is set for 3:22 p.m. Eastern. This will include a 12-minute flight to orbit and then a 19-hour flight to dock with the International Space Station tomorrow morning.
Today's mission is the culmination of years of work between teams at SpaceX and NASA. Demo 2 is going to be an end-to-end flight test starting with this launch today, going on to dock with the space station tomorrow, and then splashing down at the end of their mission. And this is going to be the final test for NASA to certify SpaceX for regular crew flights to the space station.
We've been hearing a little bit from the crew on board Dragon, which you can see on your right screen. They are currently strapped into their seats and already through communications and leak checks. They're able to follow all the milestones still ahead on those display panels just above them, getting insight into all Dragon and Falcon 9 systems as we proceed towards launch. So at T-minus 1 hour and 13 minutes, let's check in with John I for a status update on the vehicles. What's the update, John?
Thanks, Jesse. Well, not much to add to what Dan and Jesse just brought up. We've had a smooth countdown this afternoon. SpaceX team is working no issues as the pace begins to pick up here in the last 70 minutes. On Falcon 9, we did get the team on console. Earlier, you heard the comm checks between the responsible engineers and the crew. The engineers will be making calls on ascent for the crew's benefit, so they want to make sure that they could hear them before we go. The propulsion checkouts of the first and second stages are beginning right now. We're watching them begin to go through the process, opening valves. That check will go for about another 10 minutes, and that'll be our last one until propellant loading. Now the team will assess readiness for launch with a final go, no-go poll at T-minus 45 minutes, and that'll be followed by propellant loading starting at T-minus 35 minutes. Now earlier today, Dragon operators also performed a series of checkouts of Dragon's flight systems. The spacecraft is also currently go for launch. Our NASA crew, astronauts Doug Hurley and Bob Behnken, are currently inside Dragon. The hatch is closed. The SpaceX ground crew has left the tower. The next major event for Dragon is retract to the crew access arm that you can see currently alongside the capsule. That'll happen somewhere between T-minus 45 and T-minus 42 minutes. Now the range is currently clear for launch from historic Pad 39A. The worldwide network of ground stations and the tracking and data relay satellites are ready to support Dragon as it heads into orbit. The weather, that's the one concern. We will get a weather brief at T-minus 1 hour, so just under 12 minutes from now. Currently, the ground and upper altitude winds are go, so that's one thing that we can check as green. At the current time, we did have some rain earlier that appears to have let up, but we are red on conditions for both the electric field at surface levels, lightning, and cumulus clouds. There is an expectation that a forecast that will be coming up at about T-minus 1 hour also may give us clearance of those conditions. So everything is focusing now on the weather brief at T-minus 1 hours. Also, we should hope to hear about the final check on the ascent corridor. That's the weather along the Atlantic seaboard in case Dragon had to abort on the way to space. The conditions there have been marginal, but the expectation that it would be good for launch. But we will get all of that coming up here very shortly prior to entering propellant load. Now today we are aiming for a launch at 3:22:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time, or 19 hours, 22 minutes.
Hey everyone, so you probably heard we have about T-minus 10 minutes until we get another weather check. I don't think it's going to be a go, no-go call, but it is likely just going to update the possibilities of us going to space today, the statistical percentages. So we're going to sit tight until T-minus 1 hour, and hopefully we'll have a really good update. Marcus is about to join us.
We've got an extensive history now of flying Falcon 9 from the Florida coast, and just last year completed a test run of the mission where
I'm confused. I'm sorry. I have Felix in my ear, everybody. He says y'all can't hear me, but I'm seeing levels on my end, so let me know in the chat if you can't hear me. But Felix says hello. He is
for today's mission to where we are today. Right now, we're getting ready to fly U.S. astronauts from U.S. soil for the first time since 2011.
Dragon and Falcon 9.
Sure. So okay. So I'm hearing Felix. So I'm gonna play his message again in a minute here. But yeah, it's hard to talk and hear people at the same time, everyone. So. But yeah, we have about 9 minutes left until this weather update, and about 25 minutes until the crew access arm pulls away from the capsule. We are going to play Felix's message, but he is currently, like I said, unavailable. He had to scrub his appearance on the stream, but I'm doing my best to bring everybody some extra information and access to this launch. We also have Marcus House coming, who will be my co-host for the hour leading up to the launch. And then in about, I'd say in about 40 minutes, we will have astronaut Scott Parazynski joining us on the stream. He's flown 5 times on the shuttle and has done several spacewalks, so he has lots of great experience. And he's also was an astronaut with Doug and Bob, so he may have some fun side stories. So anyways, let's throw to Felix's message really quick. It's going to be a black screen. Apologies for that, but you can hear what he's got to say.
Guidance navigation control.
Good evening, everybody. As you might have noticed by now, I'm not on the stream. It's because the internet connection in the hotel room was not nearly fast enough to do any streaming. I was able to send a video though, so I'm really, really sorry that I can't join tonight. But you've got TJ and Marcus who are going to give you an absolutely awesome evening, and hopefully I'll be watching the stream if the buffering isn't too crazy. So let's cross our fingers for tonight that it's going to be an absolutely awesome launch, and Yeah, like I said, I'm sorry. Enjoy the evening, everybody. Goodbye.
To 7 crew members with modular seats that can be removed and replaced by additional cargo. The seats are made of carbon fiber and are custom sized for any crew member flying on board.
The control panel centered right between the pilot and the commander seats and has those 3 touchscreen displays that gives the crew insight into Dragon and even the ability to operate the vehicle and fly it manually.
And finally, our Super Draco launch escape system is a key safety feature of Crew Dragon, giving the crew the ability to safely escape from the time of launch all the way to orbit.
And as we look to the future beyond this test flight later this year, the first operational crewed mission for NASA will take place. NASA astronauts Mike Hopkins.
Commander, review your launch commit criteria and indicate readiness at the appropriate time. Step 5469 for propellant load and launch.
That's a good sign. That was the launch director. We're getting ready to...
Good evening, everybody.
But back to our Crew 1 mission, NASA astronauts Mike Hopkins, Victor Glover, and Shanna Walker, and Suichi Noguchi of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA, were chosen to support this mission. Again, it's called Crew 1.
But today, Doug Hurley is the spacecraft commander for this mission. He previously flew on 2 space shuttle missions as the pilot.
We will also be throwing the stream over to Marcus House's channel, so if you'd like to watch there, go for it. But he is going to be with us in just a few minutes.
Very excited. Yeah, very excited.
You feel ready? Still pumped?
Oh yeah, I think we're ready. I think we're certainly ready.
Joining the SpaceX DM-2 test. He is a Marine Corps colonel and test pilot. He was selected as an astronaut in 2000. He piloted Space Shuttle Endeavour and Atlantis for STS-135, the final space shuttle mission. Introducing NASA astronaut Doug Hurley.
I just love seeing Doug in those old shuttle pictures, and now flying this 21st century spacecraft is just a really amazing story.
So many ways to fly into space. It's just overwhelming in some respects. Just the sensations, the rumbling, the shaking, the acceleration. My name is Doug Hurley, and I'm the spacecraft commander for the DM-2 mission to the International Space Station. This will be the first time the Dragon had a crew on board, and so there's a myriad of objectives we want to achieve for this mission. What would work on orbit, what might not work on orbit, what would definitely work. To be able to just have the entire integrated team that's going to support us getting to and from space station, it was really neat being part of it. You know, we are the lucky ones that get to fly it, but we certainly not for 1 second take for granted the amount of effort that so many other people had to put into this to make it successful.
For Doug personally, he's worked so hard, I mean, through his entire life, to get to where we are right now. As a test pilot, this would be the dream, to fly a new vehicle. So it makes me so happy to see that he gets to be part of this mission, the spacecraft commander. I'm just glad to see his hard work and his dreams come true for that.
It's been a long road in a lot of ways for not only us, but certainly for all the folks that work in the commercial crew program, as well as SpaceX in our case, just working to get to this point.
We're a little over 1 hour, 3.5 minutes away from launch. Now let's learn a little bit more about the man sitting next to Doug Hurley inside Dragon.
Okay, if you've been watching the stream, this is probably the second or third time they're playing these vignettes, but we are just a few short minutes away from the next weather update. I do not know if anybody has any updates in the chat here, but we're going to be waiting for the Space Force/Air Force to give us an update on the weather.
You can feel a little bit guilty of, hey, should I study one more thing, or is there one more piece of information I should get?
am I really prepared or not? So that's definitely different between where I was on my first flight and where I'm at right now.
For me personally, as a spouse,
Launch is at 3:22 East Coast time. The countdown is in the bottom right. We got 1 hour, 2 minutes, 49 seconds, and that countdown is accurate within 1 second of NASA's official countdown clock.
until sort of the mission is complete that you have really a chance to savor it and celebrate it. This is a huge accomplishment for an Air Force flight test engineer to be part of the demonstration mission of a brand new vehicle. It's going to be amazing.
Without a partner that has that same appreciation, I think it can be challenging for some folks. There's a lot of work and a lot of time that takes away from family that that my spouse appreciates, and I love her for that. On a deeply personal level, I'm really excited that my son is going to get a chance to see me launch into space. Being an astronaut has been a little bit of an abstraction thing for him because he's seen me do it in old videos, but he hasn't seen me do it for real. And so I'm excited for him to see this launch. Really, my role on the DM-2 mission is to make sure that we get this vehicle tested and evaluated so that we can move on to more operational missions at the International Space Station. We've got a lot of objectives on board the vehicle that we need to accomplish to really make sure that it's good to go. We'll make sure all those systems are working during the test flight so that the future missions will have them available even if they don't plan to utilize them. Through years of the NASA team, helping to share that experience and teaching them the lessons that we've learned by going through this. Now there's another capability in the U.S. besides NASA to operate something of this magnitude. I want to thank the entire Commercial Crew Program team that's worked together to get to this point where we've got vehicles in the launch pad ready to head to the International Space Station.
Okay, Marcus is now joining us.
If we look
Marcus,
even
can
further
you hear
into
me?
the not so distant future,
I can hear you. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I'm still trying to get everything all set up here. How are we going this morning?
I think things are going well. I have been struggling on my own, so I'm very happy to have my co-host here. Finally, folks are getting really antsy. They wanted to see the stream. They wanted to start talking about DM-2, and I thought, hey, let's just start this thing early. I know it's very early for you over there in Tasmania. What time are you looking at right now?
Yeah, it's about 4:20 in the morning right now. So yes, couldn't sleep very well, to be honest, because this is just such a huge mission. I just can't wait to see this lift off. Hopefully the weather will hold out for us. I can see it's still a little bit hairy. I just checked some weather reports. It looks like it could come right down to the wire here with what's going on. So yeah, let's see how we go here. Have we got Felix already, or?
So Felix is ending up. So you were asleep when we were figuring this all out. Felix's internet connection at his hotel is just not very good. So he is manning his chat on youtube.com/whataboutit. And he's actually in my ear right now, talking to me, giving me updates on things. So I am trying my best to relay what they say. I'm gonna sound up here. I'm gonna see if space. Looks like we're go so far. Weather's go right now.
Great.
Which is
I'm so looking forward to this. It's going to be so exciting.
Which is awesome.
SpaceX Dragon in 6.4. Bob and I are go for
I'm just
launch.
going to tinker here a little
Doug
as
and
well
Bob are go for
and get
launch.
my side live. Hopefully my side's coming up as well. We may as well stream it to both channels.
Yes, so we will be streaming to all the channels. I even
is go for launch.
I
So
even
we
have
are
it streaming to
inside
my Twitter
of
as
1
well,
hour.
which is
Still
a
waiting
first
for the
me,
weather
but
update.
not really promoting
this
it
day
or
is
anything.
one for the history books. We're returning crew
Yeah, okay.
launches to station from American soil on
Yeah,
American
I can see that it has come up on mine. Sorry, I'm just
9
double checking that
long
everything's
years
connecting. Everybody can
since we
hear me
retired the
okay?
Space
Is that
Shuttle program.
good?
Remember
Everyone
that
can
day.
see the feed okay?
Yep, they
It's been
can.
a long road to get here. Countless hours by
This is also
thousands
your
of dedicated
first live stream
professionals
on your channel,
from
right?
NASA and SpaceX.
Well, very
It's been
close
an
to being
exciting
first. I've done a
week,
couple
but
of
this
small ones,
last
but yeah,
final hour is
close
just
to
so
close to
exciting
being
right
one
now.
of the first ones
Today's mission will
that
be
is a
Crew
real live
Dragon's
stream. I've done some
second
test ones
flight
before.
and
That's
its
about
first
it.
test with
So
humans
yes,
on
it's
board.
all a little bit
It's
new
been
to
an
me,
awesome
but I
countdown
can't
so
pass
far.
up
weather. We're
just
still waiting
sharing
for
all
that
this with
update,
everybody
so it's
because
still
it is such a
watch item,
huge
but the
milestone,
crew is
obviously
go
for
launch.
SpaceX
So
being the
at
first manned
T-minus
mission.
45 minutes, hopefully
It's
we'll get an
the
update on
first
that
time
weather.
we've seen astronauts launch from
We've
the
had a really
USA
clean
since
countdown so far.
since
It started
2011,
to
since
boot
the
up
space
just over
shuttle
3
shut down.
hours
So that
ago.
is
The
just
SpaceX team,
unreal
helping Bob and Doug
to
put
even be
on their
part of it, to
suits,
just be here
conducting
talking to
initial
people
checkouts,
about it.
including
So
the initial pressure and leak
I'll
check
connect
before they got to the
my
actual
one here so I can at
walkout.
least
And
see
all of
my
that
stream
done
as people
in
start
that
joining in.
operations and checkout
I
facility.
can't imagine I'm going to get a huge audience
The
on
crew
my
walkout
side
was
simply
where
because I
Bob
don't
and Doug
stream
gave
much.
their
So we'll see how we
final
go.
goodbyes
Hey man,
to
you
friends
have
and
over
family gathered
100,000
outside
subs,
the
so I think you're going to get one or
operations
two
and
people
checkout
who are going to
before
hop
they
on board.
began
I'll
that
just say
roughly
that.
20-minute ride to
See
pass
how we go.
Really touching moment.
Scott
saying goodbye to
Parazynski,
their
astronaut
family,
Scott
both their
Parazynski will be joining
their
us
wives
in
and
a little
sons right
bit.
in
I'm not
front of
sure
them.
if you
Oh,
saw
wow.
that. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I knew we were
Very
talking about it. I
touching
wasn't sure
moment.
if that was confirmed yet. So
Incredible to be able to
unreal.
watch these moments.
Yes, Scott is confirmed. Sorry,
And
folks.
as they got into their Teslas,
Seems like Marcus was a little
we
bit
got to
hotter than
watch
me
them
audio-wise.
ride
I got
all
it
the
more
way to the
balanced now.
pad, and we got
Yeah,
some
Scott
great footage
Parazynski is
there.
going to be joining
And as
us
you can see on the screen, this is
to
some playback from earlier
talk a
of
little bit about
them
his
getting
spaceflight
into
experience. He
those
flew on the
Teslas
shuttle
about to
5
make that
times.
drive down to the
He's
pad.
spent 47 hours total spacewalking. So 47 hours just spacewalking. So this guy,
That blows my mind.
and he's helped assemble the space station. He did a spacewalk with Chris Hadfield. He's done all kinds of, amazing stuff. So he's going to be hopping on pretty soon, actually. I told him in about 15 minutes I should be getting his feed coming in, and we'll be able to have a really great conversation. But I don't really have any queued up questions for him. I've known Scott for a few years, and he's just a really easy guy to talk to. He's also summited Mount Everest. He is a doctor. He's an author. Like, when I talk to him, I'm just like, I don't know how he's just got so many amazing credentials. He's seen so many amazing things, and I'm just happy that he's going to take some time to join us today. And he knows Bob and Doug personally. So
that's just incredible.
Yeah, so they were all in the astronaut corps together. Scott did not fly with these guys on shuttle though, but they were in the astronaut corps together. I think Scott's first launch was like in '96 or something, and his last one was in 2007.
Wow. Wow, that just blows my mind. Just blows my mind.
45 minutes will be the internal mission control Hawthorne poll, and then the launch director's poll.
I actually haven't got my stream up quite yet. I'm just fiddling here with thumbnail and whatnot, and then I'll be up on my side as well.
Copy that, because people on my stream are actually checking yours to see if it's up, and they're not. They said they don't see it yet, so that would make lots of sense.
That would make sense.
Yes.
Dragon to quickly separate the crew from the rocket, either on the pad or during the flight.
So we're at about.
And once we reach T-minus 35 minutes, propellant loading for the Falcon 9 will begin. We got there on Wednesday.
Sorry, my producer is talking to me, and I did not hear what he said because I was talking simultaneously, which is horrible coordination. But we're about 10, 12 minutes away from the crew access arm pulling away from the Dragon capsule. I'm going to sound up here so we can see what they're talking about.
Countdown. We've been getting some incredible views of the astronauts inside Dragon, just making all of their final preparations. Some close-up views of their suits and on the displays as they just
all good. I'm just listening in too.
The teams often describe the suits as an extension of that Dragon spacecraft. You can always think of it as a mini spacecraft inside of a spacecraft. It's got all of the life support, everything that they need, just like the capsule
See, on countdown 1, technical poll is complete. No constraints to proceed into launch escape system arming and propellant load.
And there's that call out that the crew is ready. They are ready to load prop onto Dragon. So we are pushing forward.
Yes.
T0.
Yes.
And while those suits do look great, they are also engineered to connect directly into Dragon seats to provide communications, cooling, and the ability to pressurize if necessary.
That's so good.
All right, well, we did get the call out that
this could actually launch.
Teams on the ground are ready for launch escape arming and propellant loading. Again, things starting to pick up.
So
things really
they
starting
will
to
not.
feel
They're a little out of order right now, and they're talking about they're not going to arm the launch escape system until the crew access arm is pulled away. So the order of operation is crew access arm pulls away. launch escape system is armed, then they start doing the propellant load for obvious reasons. Like escape system is more important than filling the tanks. And then from there, they arm the launch termination system, which I believe, Marcus, you may know this, is on the second stage. But basically, it's a little bomb, essentially, that they put on the rocket, and it's designed to shred the tank on the side here to basically terminate the launch, and they do this mainly to make sure, God forbid, the rocket veers off course and heads back to land. They do not want this thing coming back and hitting land. It could kill people, do a lot of damage, so they blow it up midair. So they arm that. I've gotten this question actually a lot about the launch window here and why it's instantaneous for SpaceX, and it's twofold. One, you need to launch when the space station is relatively overhead. It doesn't have to be directly overhead, but relatively. On the shuttle days, they did have like a 10-minute window, I think, or so, because the way that they filled up the fuel tank on the shuttle, it wasn't as high of pressure that the Falcon 9 goes through, so they would just continually top it off, and they could keep the tank full until all the systems are ready. The Falcon 9, Marcus, I can't remember exactly what the terminology is, but they do like the rapid fueling leading up to the launch, and basically the tanks are topped off at like whatever 100 or 101%. Right when it's supposed to launch, right? And they cannot keep it at that pressure very long. So
yeah, that's exactly right.
Right.
And it's just all about trying to keep the correct pressure in there, because the Falcon 9 is filled with a larger pressure than what is sort of normal for most other rockets. So it has to be organized in such a way that the whole order of things, the way things play out, has to be perfect. And obviously you want the astronauts on board well before any of this is going on.
Yes, so if they miss that window, literally that 1 second window when the tanks are topped off, you got to scrub it because they can't have the tanks sit there like that. So advantages of it is you have a longer burn with the Falcon 9's Merlins. Disadvantages is you got to go. You have no room for air. Where the space shuttle had like 10 minutes because it could stay at that pressure for a longer period of time. So if they had a technical issue or they had to wait a couple minutes for the weather to be just right, they had that luxury, which is also why with the shuttle they had a bunch of built-in holds in the countdown. This is now technically, I guess, our 4th time watching this Crew Dragon countdown, and there has not been a single built-in hold in this countdown, probably because of how tight the margins are for topping off these tanks. If they weren't going to station and they were going to somewhere else in low Earth orbit, they probably could restart the countdown. But since the space station is flying by 17,500 miles per hour, like your margin for error is pretty slim.
Yeah. I've had this question a few times about why it is instantaneous. And it is interesting. Obviously, as the Earth is rotating, as we go from night to day, we're passing under the orbit lines of the space station, under the path of the space station. So it's really important that as soon as the time is right, as we're passing under that window, that we launch in the correct direction. Obviously, it's not exactly launching horizontally like we would be, if everything was on a flat plane and we were launching from the equator, the ISS was on the equator, then it probably wouldn't matter that much when you launch. But because the ISS orbits on an angle, it has to be launched at an exact time as we're passing underneath. So yes, that's the main reason why.
This is getting really exciting. I don't know about you, Dan, but my heart is beating pretty fast right now.
Sure, they're breaking up anything
We've been
important.
waiting for those words.
Yeah,
since
I was just listening to
Wednesday.
myself.
And we did hear a call to the crew, just in case you missed it.
Still
that
go
They
on
were
weather.
only tracking one final weather constraint. It was the cumulus cloud rule. They were expecting it to clear up within 10 minutes, and it's cleared up now. So we are currently go on weather.
Yes, and it's been pretty incredible to be so close to launch, and the road leading up to this point has been pretty incredible as well.
It has been. It's been a partnership between NASA and SpaceX. We've been working together since SpaceX started flying cargo to the International Space Station, now getting ready to launch crew. And we've been really fortunate to work with not only a lot of international partners on the International Space Station, but a lot of
And as
really
a reminder,
great
here in
companies.
the control room, we'll be closing doors here once we start with propellant load. Any last-minute bio breaks, please go ahead and accomplish those in the next few minutes.
And the launch director just getting the teams ready. We'll be coming up on that propellant loading again. That starts at about 35 minutes prior to liftoff, so in about 12 minutes from now. There's going to be a go, no go coming up really soon. So let's go over to our man, John I, for the latest. John?
It's T-minus 47 minutes, 24 seconds. We're continuing to count down. As you just heard, the launch director and launch team are preparing for the readiness for launch poll. Now, the launch director is currently checking with Dragon mission director and NASA launch manager for their readiness. And actually, it sounds like everybody is good there. The launch director will then ask the team, he'll tell them the poll is open, and the 13 members of the SpaceX launch team will be electrically polled for their go to load propellant, as well as continue all the way to
So
launch.
what's cool is SpaceX is actually streaming
Now, we will
the
hear that poll results and a briefing from the launch director
mission
at
control
about
audio.
T-minus 45 minutes.
So I'm going to try to pull that
The
in
good
here
news right
so
now
we can pull in
is
some of
that
the
the
more
weather
grainy
is
details.
Go. All
That's
the
a cool idea.
conditions that were
I'm not
read
going to do that
shortly,
because I've already
while
I'm a
ago,
little bit new to
the
this and I'm trying to
T-minus 1 hour
concentrate
have
on all these
cleared.
things
We're
at the
as
same
weather
time. So
forecaster
yeah,
said, cautiously optimistic. Currently,
Countdown.
the
Poll
probability
is complete.
we should
We're
have
go
the
for
access arm
propellant load.
contracting here in a second.
Yep.
Well,
I love
we got
this
an
angle
early call
from
out
the
there
Launch
from-
control clear to retract the access
so
arm
good.
on time.
like on the
Cover
axis
that,
arm.
arming, access,
Bob and Doug
arm,
might as well be a
retract at
still
T-minus
photo.
45 minutes.
Yeah, I tell you got to wonder what they're thinking
Got
right
an
now.
early call from SpaceX launch director Mike Taylor that the poll is go.
You know,
He
leading
also
up to
heard
this
the direction
point, they've been in
T-minus
this
45
situation
minutes.
so many times in Sims. They likely are in a very comfortable position because now that the door's closed, this is something that's extremely familiar to them. At least that's what I've heard with other astronauts who've been through these scenarios before. You know, now that they're on top of the rocket, you can't see through the windows right now. Everything's black. Like you probably, you know, they're not really thinking about it right now. Well, I guess you can see through the foot windows, but it's kind of hard the way their necks are. They can't really move their necks in those suits.
There is
Yeah,
about
yeah.
a less than 10% chance of lightning. We're also watching the abort corridor off of the Atlantic coast. In case, for example, at stage separation, Dragon had to abort into the ocean. The conditions there are acceptable. There has not been lightning lately. The weather, winds are good, light rain. It is go, but NASA is going to continue to watch those
45
conditions.
minutes.
T-minus 45 minutes and counting. Reminder on hold and launch escape protocol. For non-urgent no-go conditions, brief the CE or LD, and they will approve aborting launch auto-sequence and proceed to launch abort. For urgent issues affecting the safety of the operation, operators shall call hold on the countdown net. Launch control will immediately abort the launch auto-sequence and proceed to the launch abort auto-sequence. Operators shall also advise launch director whether structural break or fire is imminent or occurring for Dragon manual escape flight rules. A reminder on fire alarm instructions. In the event of a fire alarm, key operators previously briefed will remain at their post while the alarm is evaluated.
Unreal.
In the event that personal safety is threatened, evacuate to the south-facing emergency exit.
I just
which
love
leads
that
directly
crew access
outside.
shot.
At this time, weather is go for launch.
You can see on the screen, we're inside T-minus 40, we're T-minus 44 minutes, 5 seconds. Crew access arm
retract
retracting
has
away.
begun. Retract has begun.
SpaceX launch director is given the final brief to the crew. And we will
love
be
this.
beginning propellant loading at T-minus 35 minutes. So right now on Falcon 9, ready to get into propellant loading. Dragon, crew, getting configured, set up. The arm is pulling away. The range is go for launch. They continue to monitor the air and the sea space.
Hi,
Everything
Scott.
looks
I
good.
can hear you.
And we finally have gotten green
We
across
can
the
hear
board
you,
on the
Scott.
weather
We're about to
conditions,
add you
but
on
we
right now. The
can't,
folks on
take a
watching
deep
right now
breath quite
cannot
yet.
see
We're
you, but
gonna
we
have
will
to
be
watch the
adding
weather
you.
all the way down
We're
to
looking
T0,
at
both
roughly
here at
between the
Kennedy
streams a
Space
little over
Center
3,000
and
people
out
watching
in the Atlantic, in the abort
right
zones.
now.
Now, earlier we saw many of you following
So give me a few minutes, and we will have you on board with us, and we can chat through what it's like to be in this situation.
Tuning in from coast to coast and around the world. So we'd like to know, is this your first time watching a launch live, not counting Wednesday? And if not, how many have you seen before? Tell us using the hashtag LaunchAmerica
Wow, this is looking really good
from
today.
your favorite social media platform. And
I wasn't
with
sure
that,
how we'd
at
go
T-minus
coming into
42
the
minutes, 50
stream.
seconds, conditions are go, and we are counting down for an on-time launch. Let's send it back over to Kennedy Space Center
I think so.
as the
I
action
think it will.
begins to pick up on the pad.
Dragon, SpaceX, you are go for Section 7, close visors, and arm launch escape system.
We will put Section 7 in work. Visors coming close.
Mine too.
Ladies and gentlemen, we now have the man, the myth, the legend, Scott Parazynski, joining us here. 5-time shuttle veteran. The dude's mounted, has climbed Mount Everest, written books. I mean, just we are not worthy of your presence. So thank you.
No. Not worthy at all. A huge welcome, and thank you so much for joining. This is it blows my mind. It's just incredible.
Oh, thank you, guys. I'm like you guys, a kid on Christmas morning. I'm just so excited to see this launch today, to see Bob and Doug and the SpaceX team take it upstairs. It looks great. You know, that we just heard the goes, and the weather is looking promising, and a brand new vehicle. I can't imagine. My heart's racing, and I'm not even. I'm thousands of miles away from the launch vehicle, but this is a big day.
So, you know, Marcus was just bringing up, like, what are these guys feeling right now? You know, I mean, they've been through the sims tons of times. This is now their second time sitting on the top of the booster with it fueled up. Can you just bring us to these moments? Like, is there really that much anxiety, or is this just something that is kind of old hat for them at this point?
It's never old hat. No, this is a defining moment in their lives, and you know, for our country and our planet, I think it's a defining moment. But at this point, they're probably fairly relaxed. They're telling, you know, stale jokes that they've told each other hundreds of times before, just kind of killing the time. It is a little bit boring in the the leak check and kind of fueling period that they're in right now. But when they come out of that last little bit, you know, the last 5 to 10 minutes. We call it a sterile cockpit, but that's when things got really serious. You were listening to every syllable that was coming through the comm loops, and you know, really trying to get your game face on. Butterflies really start as you get into that last 10 minutes or so towards flight, because you think, hey, you know, we're probably going to space today. This is no longer a simulation. Sorry, that's my.
You're fine.
Turn that off.
Yeah. I can't even imagine what Bob and Doug here are thinking right now. I mean, they seem to be very relaxed. It seems to be sort of a run-of-the-mill thing. I'm sure that's not the case. And like we've seen so many times from others like Chris Hadfield and whatnot, you know, nobody goes to space with their fingers crossed. I think everyone's seen that ad. But you know, it's so inspiring to be able to see everything here that the astronauts go through, and this is a huge difference to any other SpaceX flight we've seen to this point. So yeah,
indeed. I'm so sorry.
Scott, I was on your Instagram and saw that you've actually been to the pad since it's been upgraded by SpaceX.
It was extraordinary to see it. And actually, it was a little over a year ago. All the modernization, the trim that they've added to the launch tower is not present at that point, but the launch gantry had been installed, and walked out there to the tip, and imagine myself, you know, crawling through the hatch, and you know, I could envision what today was going to be like for Bob and Doug. It's still just a spectacular sight to be, you know, hundreds of feet in the air, to look out over the Florida coast, and to realize that, you know, the space program has so much history here, from, you know, the Apollo era all the way through the space shuttle era, and now a brand new chapter with SpaceX.
And you've launched from 39A, right? 3
times, and a couple of times from B as well.
Oof. Man, I'm just, I don't even know what to say right now. We're just, we you know, we had this super long stream the other day. I think we were on for almost 3 hours, And I felt like, you know what, let's start this one a little bit later because the other one was a really marathon, and you know, we wanted to have you on here within the last 30 minutes or so to kind of just bring us into the moment. Do you know Bob and Doug by any chance?
Oh, of course. Yeah, no, we overlapped in office for several years. These guys are outstanding astronauts. Bob, of course, is a flight test engineer, incredibly bright guy, great spacewalker. Had served as chief of the astronaut office for I think 2 years, and Doug is a Marine fighter pilot, test pilot. These are the kind of guys that you want to have on a test flight. They're professionals at doing this kind of mission, and so they're the right guys for a mission like today. Of course, they're getting more than they bargained for. They're also going to get 1 to 4 months aboard the International Space Station. So I'm jealous on many counts. I wish I was in seat 1 or 4. I'd take either one. Or I just kind of take whatever free space they had on board that capsule. But I think the test plan that they have slated for this mission is really important. They're going to perform procedures that hopefully never have to be executed. It's designed to be an automatic docking. Many automated features, but there are crew contingency procedures that can be run. And so Doug will be manually flying the vehicle at certain times, performing certain phases of the rendezvous, as I understand it. And they'll basically ring out the spacecraft, make sure that it's ready for prime time. In a few months' time, the second crew will take the first operational flight with 4 astronauts on board. And then it becomes part of NASA's toolkit, but also an opportunity for many other people to fly into space, whether to the International Space Station, Earth orbit, around the moon, who knows, maybe even to Mars one day. Really exciting.
So I know you flew with the pumpkin suit, but how much different is it to suit up in 0G? Like, are you able to do it unassisted on Earth, 1, and then 2, would you still be able to do unassisted in 0G in like an emergency scenario?
It's a really unpleasant experience, especially coming back home. That orange pumpkin suit actually has built into it a G suit that we wear on entry. So imagine putting on all of your warmest clothing and then putting on a down suit and then a spacesuit on top of that. I mean, it's multiple layers. And
wow.
If one little piece rolls up on your sleeve, you've got to pull your arm out and try and straighten it out. And it really does take a team effort. It could be done by a single person, but the trickiest part, sort of like a surfer's wetsuit, there's a zipper in the back. And so you can hook a lanyard onto it and pull the lanyard down. Very awkward. And if you have any material that's kind of bunched up back there, not fun at all. And you end up just completely exhausted, completely sweaty inside this very hot suit. And with a cooling system that never really cranked up very well at all. So it was always sort of a wrestling match getting into that suit, even if you had people helping you.
Yeah. And as we see with the newer suits here that Bob and Doug are wearing, they seem quite different. Do you know much about where a lot of those differences are? Obviously, there's a lot of. It seems much lighter from a size point of view. It seems a simpler unit to get on. Maybe I'm not sure. Do you know much about that?
I know a little bit about it. That's a particular suit that I've not actually been in personally. It was developed by SpaceX out at Hawthorne. What I really love about SpaceX is the attention to detail that they put into everything. So just the fine details of the integral helmet that the crew has. It's much smaller than this enormous pumpkin-sized helmet that we used to have to carry. And of course, that takes up a lot of volume on the spacecraft as well. So the whole thing compresses down to a very tiny volume, which is important. The integral gloves that they have, very, very clever design with the double zipper so that you can actually have your hands free and then pull the glove out, insert your hand and zipper it closed yourself instead of this very, very awkward wrist ring configuration that we had for the old ASIS suit. It's similar to what we have for spacewalking. It's best to put that suit on with a helper. This is a suit that people can put on themselves. So some wonderful advancements to the suit. Also, the connection is just a single point for communication and power and so on. So it's a beautifully designed, lighter weight suit that also compresses down into a smaller volume.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes a lot of sense. And as we sort of see from a lot of the photography and that, we wasn't sure if there was going to be sort of more of a real version suit versus a suit that they sort of have in a lot of the shots. But what's quite interesting is that it does look very similar to everything we've seen historically going through the variations in the suit design as we've seen over the last few years. So yeah, at first I thought, oh, maybe this is more of a marketing thing as it was sort of first produced, but it doesn't seem that way. It seems very much the same.
I am curious, Scott, about really quick. I don't want to overstate the importance of the launch escape system that is on Crew Dragon. You flew on Shuttle, which had very few really true launch abort modes that were actually that practical. People that really know the Shuttle, there was return to launch site. There was another one where you would land at in Rota, Spain or something.
Transatlantic abort.
Right, that transatlantic abort or bail out over the Atlantic. There was several really horrific, frankly, things. And there were also points in the launch where while the SRBs are burning, you're just on it for the ride. You really can't do anything until those things burn out. What kind of value does this have just to the astronauts' psyche by being able to safely abort, from an errant booster?
Yeah, TJ, that's a great question, and this is a quantum leap improved safety. We called them black zones in the shuttle program, but there were many phases, as you pointed out, including the first stage when we were on the solid rocket boosters, when you were holding on for dear life, and we would absolutely have a huge sigh of relief once those SRBs separated. It's like, we've cheated death here. We've made it, through obviously what took down the wonderful Challenger crew. So that was a significant moment in our launch progress once we had staging there. But even beyond that, getting across to Africa or to Spain on a transatlantic abort or an abort once around was a little sketchy. And then if we didn't have enough energy with the shuttle to land on a runway, we would actually have to bail out potentially over the North Atlantic. And those are cold waters there. How long would it take for a rescue crew to come get us? Not sure, but it wouldn't be a pretty case of survival. So what's available to the crew now is actually substantially improved. These guys have the ability either to command themselves, to punch off of the stack, or if certain sensors trigger an abort, they can actually very safely separate from the stack here on the launch tower all the way up to almost orbital velocities. So this is a much safer system. And it's also, the engineering is just wonderful. The fact that you can actually recycle the booster and recycle the capsule, and we're bringing down the cost to space, making it possible for us to have cheaper access and more frequent access to space. So terrific stuff.
We do have a question from the audience. This guy Happy Hacking has asked, how does a Crew Dragon compare with the plethora of switches and blinking lights on a shuttle? How does that change the training for the astronauts? They still need to memorize all the available screens and menus, I'd imagine.
It's the same but different. I'll explain that. So the crew has full insight into all the subsystems on board the craft, but this is a craft that was built decades after the space shuttle's first designed in the late 70s, or first flown in the early 80s. So been substantial improvements in display technology and so on, but all the different interfaces that you would want to have access to, insight into the engines, the maneuvering jets, the life support systems, communication, and so on, are accessible to the crew. There are a handful of physical switches below the displays, but by and large, what the crew is interfacing with via touchscreen are the equivalent of switches that we would have on the space shuttle. So what's significantly improved is the detail of insight that they're able to garner from all their systems. They also have digital procedures. I don't know if you ever saw photographs or video of a space shuttle crew on a simulation or an actual flight. We would have physical checklists strapped to our knees and cue cards all around us. And we were actually using paper products. And if there were an emergency, a master alarm that went off, we'd have to very quickly turn the pages to get to the right, the electrical power system and run through the procedure. Now they've got those systems right at their fingertips. So
Yeah, I mean, the level of automation frees the crew up tremendously to actually perform more science and exploration. You know, I can't imagine how much time was spent on the shuttle between the whole crew and all the different systems that need to be checked in on and turned on and shut down. You know, I remember reading something, I think Doug was talking about, where, oh, well, if a pump went down, they would have to turn on an auxiliary pump, and the only way they knew if it was working is they'd look at the gauge to see if the pressures were fixed. Like, you'd have to babysit the systems, and that's just less time for them to actually optimizing their time in orbit, where now the computer can handle a lot of the monotonous stuff and the astronauts can focus on being astronauts, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And in fact, that's the reason why we would not have our rendezvous and docking with the International Space Station on flight day 1 or even flight day 2. It was such a frenetic day. We called it post-insertion into Earth orbit. We'd have to reconfigure the space shuttle into an orbiting laboratory. So reconfigure all of our systems from launch, get out of our spacesuits, of course, but clean up the cabin, but load new software to sustain ourselves on orbit, reconfigure life support systems, communication systems, and so on. Now it can be done with automation. And of course, the crew will be rendezvousing and docking within 24 hours of their launch, leveraging those automation tools that you mentioned. And that's really freeing up not only the crew's time, but I think it's the pilot workload. They can actually monitor systems better. And if things really were to go south, they'd be really in the game instead of trying to sleuth out what had actually happened and find the right procedure to run and do that. They'll be able to respond more quickly.
I was going to say, it is interesting hearing you talk about the differences between, say, the shuttle abort systems and things like that versus something like this, which is obviously built right from the ground up. And, as you say, this has got the capability to essentially abort at almost any time in the launch, I believe, or pretty much any time. I think one of the only interesting parts of it was they had to get the astronauts on board and that sort of thing before fueling. And that to me is a little interesting. That was quite different to the shuttle program, wasn't it?
Well, so we would actually load the cryogenics, the liquid hydrogen and oxygen, into the orange external tank before crew arrival. So the space shuttle was living and breathing. It was venting fumes and so on by the time we got out there. So if something was going to happen, a short or something that might cause a fire and an explosion, it would happen before the crew would get out to the space shuttle. So that in a way was quite a bit safer. There is a bit of a concern when you're pressurizing these propellants with the crew on board. We of course did have a fire and an explosion on an earlier test that SpaceX experienced. But they learned a lot from that, and I think that the safety procedures and the lessons learned from that episode, make this a relatively safe build up to the launch. Nothing is completely free of risk, of course, but
it's very interesting to sort of get an understanding on how those systems are quite different, I guess, for this vehicle. But yeah, thank you for that. And yes, as I say, super interesting hearing you talk about those more nail-biting parts of the launch with the shuttle, where essentially you're strapped to those solid rocket boosters. There's no turning those things off. Once they're lit, they are lit.
You're going somewhere. You're just not sure exactly where.
Yeah. Wow, I'm just checking in here on the stream. We've been talking so much, I haven't really been concentrating on what everybody's saying. We're still all good, I believe, weather-wise.
Yeah, I think I'm looking at my stream right now, and people are saying that we're looking good, because we've been completely checked out on what SpaceX is talking about. If you watched the stream the other day, they're really just rehashing a lot of the same things, but you know, everyone's just kind of sitting tight. The big go no go for weather though is going to be happening in less than 5 minutes though. If we remember last launch attempt, they scrubbed the T-minus 17 and change, so hopefully we will have some good news here shortly, and they can present with the count. And I believe if I remember correctly, T-minus 10 minutes, it goes into internal power. The control system on Dragon takes over. So we're gonna sound up here and just listen in to see if there's anything worth learning.
It feels like, whew, I'm feeling it a lot more than I did on Wednesday.
Right.
And, you know, speaking of Bob and Doug and them being really calm and cool and
Just
collected, I
beautiful
haven't had the
shots.
opportunity to be in meetings with them and to watch
Man, the
them
weather
train.
looks so much better.
I have to say, and to all of my friends who work with them every single day, the feedback is always just what great people they are.
Right.
And just how not just bright and sharp they are, but just good people.
Right.
And
Yeah, if you don't like the
around
weather in the Space
office,
Coast,
we
wait
often
5
refer
minutes
to them
and
as the
it'll change,
dads.
but
And
feels
they're
good feeling about it today.
They're
I think we're-
dads. They are dads,
Okay.
and we've
Good
met their
launch.
families. And
That was
when you
beautiful.
when you see people on that very personal level, it starts to mean so much. They
Right.
are a part of our team. You know, they're not a customer. They're our team. They're not a payload. They're our
Right.
team. They're
Yeah.
a family. And so we're just so excited to see the dads up there today.
Yeah. Go
And-
dads.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to go send it over to Gary for an update from Houston. Gary?
Hey, Marie, the space station team here is focused. All eyes are on the system checks that are happening across the board, and we're listening in as we close in on launch, and I can tell you that things are looking very good. Chris Cassidy will be watching from the International Space Station, right now flying over the Pacific Ocean. It's heading to cross right over the launch pad. We might even get some good views from the station. Hope to be capturing those. We'll have the launch view and the big screen up front, and everyone's excited to see our 2 crew members on their way to the International Space Station. But before we get to
History-making
it, I
is the
just want
word
to
there.
pass on good luck from the entire flight operations community here in Houston.
Man, I'm
It's
feeling
always
good right
exciting
now.
to be doing something wholly new
I'm feeling
and
So
excited.
history-making with station operations. And we can't wait to see
I
our
want
team
these
members, Bob and
jackets
Doug,
that
in
all the
low Earth
NASA
orbit
public
and
affairs
heading to the
officers people are
International
wearing.
Space Station.
I want those.
That's it from us here in Mission Control Houston.
Yeah, they're sort of
We'll send
helter
it back
skelter.
over
They
to
have the
team in
meatball as
Hawthorne
well
for
as the worm.
latest happening
But yeah,
there.
it covers all bases.
I know. Hey, you know, that actually reminds
20
me.
minutes, 30 seconds. We're
Strong back
continuing to
tail
count
Meatball or
down.
worm? What do you prefer?
Everything is still looking good for launch.
I actually like the worm a lot.
22
It
minutes,
was
45 seconds after the hour.
it had actually been kind of
Right-hand
kicked out of
side,
service by Dan
you
Golden
can
when he was
see a large
administrator, and
white
everything
cloud
had
coming off of
all of
the
our
strongback. That is
stationary,
normal.
everything had to
As
be
we get ready to
swept
load the
out.
second stage
But
with liquid oxygen,
I think
we
there's a
have
cool
to chill in the
tradition,
plumbing lines
cool
going
history
up
with it,
that
so
strongback.
I'm a fan of it.
And so as we relieve
Yeah,
pressure,
excellent.
the
No,
moist
I'm a
humid
big fan
Florida
of the
air
worm as well.
condenses
We're just
around
coming
it,
down to
and it
20
gives you the
minutes. Well, we've
cloud.
just passed
So that
20
tells us
minutes
that things are
in the
actually
countdown.
on schedule. We did begin propellant load at T-minus 30
Yes.
minutes.
Hey, Felix,
Fuel
here he
loading
is.
on the second
Oh,
stage,
yay.
I believe. We just heard the call out that it is complete. First stage fuel load
We will
is
soon be
continuing,
having
and
our
right now
third host
that's, a little
joining.
more than,
Felix,
that's
I need
about
to now get
60%
him
of the way
on
full.
the
So
stream.
things
His
are looking
hotel
good.
internet is
Second
finally
stage
working.
is
So Felix,
getting
give us a
ready to
minute.
begin
I
the
will get
liquid
you on
oxygen
probably the
loading.
next
After they
2
finish
minutes.
chilling in the lines that you see on the monitor, they'll begin the load at T-minus 16 minutes and 30 seconds.
Who did you pay? Oh, I
The range
have
right
to
now
you have
is
to figure
go,
out
ready
to
to
tell the
support.
audience who you paid off to get the better
Weather
internet.
continues to be go. As we inch our way closer, we're keeping our fingers crossed. We're waiting to hear if anybody calls out an issue.
Your own personal
As you
hotspot.
can
We
see
can
on the
hear
screen,
you.
it looks good. Now on the Dragon Tide, the Dragon mission director and the team there are reporting no issues. They've done their communications
It'll do the
checkouts.
job.
The crew access arm, as you can see, is retracted away from the spacecraft. The crew is strapped.
Yeah, is it still go? I was working for the last half hour.
Into how the launch is proceeding and provides constant updates on vehicle health. We've already heard the crew give their go, close their visors, and get ready for launch. For Dragon, it'll enter terminal count at T-minus 5
mate.
minutes. When it transitions to internal power, we'll hear continued call.
Everything's still go. Everything's still go. We've got just people watching from all over the world.
Oh my God, we're still go.
T-minus 18
We're
minutes,
still go.
15
Let us know in the
seconds.
chats. We've got
Everything
I'm
continues
live
to
streaming.
go for
TJ's
an
live streaming. We've
on-time
got Felix
launch.
live streaming.
So
Let us
Dan,
know in the
Jesse,
chats
things
where
are
you're
looking
from.
pretty
This is
good.
so
How are they
exciting.
doing over at your stand?
Things are great from about 15 feet away from you, John, and honestly, things are looking pretty great down at the pad there. We're seeing a lot more blue in the sky. Green is the color we want when we're talking about weather, and that's where we're sitting right now. So we're continuing to count down. We are under 18 minutes away from liftoff. Again, it's an instantaneous liftoff.
I'm the only one who's not live streaming right now.
It's going to be 12:22 and 45 seconds here on the West Coast, 3:22 and 45 seconds over on the East
Great to
Coast
join
there
you.
in Florida.
Thank you for inviting me.
Just a reminder,
Great
it's
to
going to
with
be
you guys.
about a 9-minute ride
It just
up to
blows my
orbit
mind
for the
that
Falcon
you're able to
9
join in here
Bob
and
Doug
be
on
here
board
with us.
Dragon.
This
It'll
is
be a
this is
two-stage
just unreal.
flight.
Thank you.
So we'll see the first stage fly until we
Would
hear
not miss it.
go, or main engine cut off about 2.5 minutes into flight. After that, the second stage will take over and continue to power them the rest of the way. Second engine cutoff comes in
Looking
just
beautiful
under
there on the
9
pad.
minutes at about 8 minutes and 44 seconds. Following that second stage,
Okay,
completing
Felix
its job,
is here.
it'll continue to coast for about
Can you
30
see me?
minutes.
Give us an
Everybody?
audio check. Can the
A
audience
slight
hear you?
attitude adjustment.
Can
and
you
roll
hear
out
me?
Any rate, so make sure it's not in any kind of a spin before they do.
I think they can.
I hope so. This is
I can
totally
hear
not
you.
the
I'm not
problem
sure
is
if
that
you guys
the problem is that my stream is I should be able to see me. The problem is that my stream is lagging and buffering and everything. So if the camera picture comes through, I'm really happy right now. Awesome. Hey everybody. Nice. I was working for the last half hour or so. So I was working for the last half hour to actually get this to work, and I think it does work now, and so yeah, I'm happy to join just before launch. This should be good. Good evening, everybody. I made it.
Good deal.
Yeah, it was a lot of work, a lot of tinkering, and right now my internet connection is running through this, and let's hope it works.
Hey, we've got Gwen.
We are T-minus 15 minutes.
Can we just turn up Gwen here for a sec? Let's see what Gwen's got to say.
Mission today, and we have the honor of having SpaceX's President and COO Gwen Shotwell join us. Thanks, Gwen, for coming out and taking a few minutes to chat with us.
Thanks, Jesse.
We know you've been on console. How's the countdown been going so far in there?
Countdown is clean today, just like it was Wednesday. We did clear the weather hurdles sooner than we did on Wednesday. And the only thing we're watching right now is downrange weather and lightning at the staging location.
Of course.
But we will clear
Good
that
plan, Matt.
hurdle at T-minus 7 minutes.
Awesome, great, very exciting. Now I'm going to throw it back to 2012 because you were on console for Dragon when it was first making its way to the space station. How does that experience compare to today?
Stage 2 locks is on the DPUs
So
and
I was nervous
anomaly.
then. I stopped getting nervous for launches. Today I'm nervous again. Super nervous. Stomach and throat.
Understandable.
No, it's a fantastic day today. I'm really excited. The team is pulled together. It's such a professional operation. And when I say team, by the way, I mean SpaceX and NASA. These folks have been working incredibly hard and have done
I wish she was full
fantastic
screen
job.
because
Yes, and
the
we are
booster's
all
not doing
so
anything.
excited. And we know that you have to get back inside of mission
Which is
control.
what you want
but
right now,
Is
I
there
guess.
anything that you wanted to say before liftoff
Yeah.
to NASA and SpaceX?
Well, I want to thank NASA, of course, for their
Breathing.
their
I
generosity.
just love this
and their
right before the launch
with
when the
getting to this place.
rocket is sitting
I
there
wanna
on the
thank
pad and
all the SpaceXers who have come together to make this moment in history. And
Love Gwen.
I
She's
want to
just so
thank
awesome.
Elon for hiring me.
yeah, she is.
We thank Elon for hiring you as well. Thank you so much for joining
The
us. We'll let
tenacity
you
to get
back
to this
mission
point.
Control.
It's so impressive, the whole team,
and
really.
good luck with
Yeah.
launch today.
Thanks, Jesse,
Yep.
and Godspeed,
Yeah,
Bob
a
and
couple
Doug.
more minutes and we're past T-minus 10 minutes.
Well, we are so excited. We are just a few minutes away from
Internal
countdown.
power at 5 minutes.
So we are going
Yeah.
to turn
That's when
it
it gets
over
serious.
to Dan and John for the final minutes in terminal count. Take it away, John.
T-minus 13 minutes, 30 seconds, continuing to count down.
Wish I could set
We're
up these
continuing to
windows
load
better.
fuel onto the first stage. That should finish up in just about 6 minutes. Fuel is completely loaded on the second stage. That's closed out. And we are continuing to load liquid oxygen on both the first and second stage. The liquid oxygen load
13 minutes to go. This is
stage,
absolutely awesome.
Just about 3.5 minutes ago.
This is about the time of the count when you really start to think, oh my God, I'm sitting on a big firecracker here. My entire family and friends are miles and miles away. Now it's starting to get real for the guys inside. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I can't even comprehend the feeling that the astronauts will be going through right now. What you've felt in the past, obviously, it blows my mind. It really does.
Well, and then there's the added fact that this is the first time this vehicle has ever been flown with a crew.
Oh yeah.
I flew on the sixth. My first flight was on STS-66, so there had been 65 or thereabouts prior space shuttle flights. So a lot of those initial unknowns were answered, but this is the first time ever with the crew. So
yeah, it's just huge, extremely. It's nerve-wracking because it is a first, and not that we believe anything's risky about it. It's just there's always that anxiety with a first like this. So
well, there's been so much emphasis on. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I was just wanted to say that luckily the rocket has flown a few times now, and it seems to be a reliable rocket. But still, yeah, I totally agree. First time up there is a special feeling, I guess.
Something I haven't been able to figure out is are those like handles? I guess what I'm curious about are where Bob and Doug are going to be holding on to during the launch. If their hands are going to be up here, I feel like the abort handle is in a bit of an awkward position. I know that, and I think they'll be going upwards of 5 Gs at the highest point. And to move your hand up there to grab it and twist and pull, I mean, I guess it's a pretty big object. Back in the Apollo days, the abort switch was right on the was right where on the left hand of the commander. I'm just curious, with the shuttle, do you know like what where the abort switch was for the commander? Was it something that was way up in front of them, or?
Yeah, so there's a rotary that you would have to push or to twist, and then to press a button to declare a return to launch site or transatlantic abort. And of course, you'd be doing that most likely under 3 Gs of acceleration, or possibly at that. But you practice under those levels of acceleration in aircraft and in centrifuges. So it's hard work, but you can do it. And we would always try under powered flight. We would always lift our arms up, and not to throw any switches, but just to make sure that we could do it. And so, for these guys, they've trained for this. If they, God forbid, had to use the board, they'd be able to get to it. They'd be suitably motivated.
Bob,
wow.
On behalf of the entire
so while we've been talking there, we've just passed T-minus 10 minutes.
Know that we're with you.
Still going.
Have an amazing flight.
Dragon should be on internal power at this point.
We're still going.
Yep, clock is still counting down.
It is absolutely our honor to be part of this.
Can't wait for this to happen. This is just so absolutely awesome.
Back in the launch business.
As you say, it's still it gets super real at about that 5-minute point. So another few minutes to get to that.
My heart rate's starting to climb for sure.
So again, that voice that's going to be talking to Bob and Doug throughout their mission.
Yep, mine too.
Weather looks good.
Just offering a few quick words.
At least what we can see in this small picture of the capsule, the weather looks.
We are coming up on 9 minutes.
Yeah, we're looking good.
Best as it has been.
Does anybody know about the patches that Bob and Doug have put on the on the dashboard there? Is anybody aware if this is like a new tradition or something?
We begin what we call engine chill.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too. They when the egress team got them out of the capsule last time, they gave them these patches.
Yeah, didn't they rip?
I don't know what it is though.
Rip it off of one of the guys' shirts?
Oh, I can explain that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Go ahead.
here are my flight wings. These are just Velcroed on to my flight suit here. But the closeout crew also have their identifiers on their flight suits, and so I'd imagine that's what they ripped off and put in the crew compartment. I think they intended to take those to space for them and return them after flight.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Interesting.
That makes sense. That's a really nice gift.
It is. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Bob and Doug were working on building off of older traditions from Apollo and Shuttle, but also creating new traditions for the commercial crew program. You know, they have this. There's now going to be a wall at their crew quarters where the crew is going to put their mission patch and everybody's going to sign their name around it. I mean, I want to see what they're saying here real quick.
Of stage 1 fuel, and then the fuel load will complete.
Not saying anything right at the minute.
They're just topping off fuel.
Topping off the fuel, yeah.
They signed, well, we called it the orbiter access arm and the white room, but they signed the wall in the white room prior to getting on board. So that's also a new tradition that they've begun.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, it's gone quite
Love
quiet.
these traditions.
Yeah, it's quiet now.
Yeah, everybody's like doubling down right now.
I think about T-minus 1 minute, the flight computer on Dragon takes over the countdown.
Stage 2 engine chill has started.
So right now, launch control is still in control of the count. Not that they'll ever out of control, but
we've heard the call out.
Dragon's not
Stage 1
involved
engine
right
chill
now.
has started. That's gone up to the crew so that they've got situational awareness. As I mentioned, the pre-valves are open.
The stream
and
keeps.
now we are topping off.
It's
first stage fuel. Getting ready to
topping
finish
off.
the fuel
It's
load.
really hard for me to keep the stream on live because it's constantly buffering. You're probably going to be cheering, and I'll be like 20 seconds later. I'll be like, yeah.
You could hear that call out RP1 load complete coming up in about 6 minutes. Again, RP1
Just passing that 6
is
minute
just
mark.
that densified kerosene or that rocket fuel that Falcon 9 is going to be using.
Yes, about this point, the crew is really ready to leave planet Earth. They're on their backs, and so their bladders are filling up pretty readily. And it's very exciting to finally get up into space. This is when it starts to get a little uncomfortable, actually, after a couple hours on your back.
That call out indicates that the fuel loading on the first
So
stage.
my wife's with me right now because we're on vacation.
Draining
As
back
you
the lines
just
now,
saw
so
her in the
first
picture.
stage
We're
and
having our
second stage fuel
8th
are
anniversary
Liquid
right
oxygen
now,
loading
and
is
we're in the
continuing
hotel
on both
where
stages.
we spent our
You can
honeymoon,
see on the
and she's
view on
sitting
the
right
left side
next
of
to
the
me,
monitor,
watching the launch with
the
me. Thank you.
condensation, the cold gas wrapped around the stages as the tank skins are chilled by the densified
It's all a bit
liquid
special.
oxygen,
Normally, I'm sitting in
soaking
my
up the
studio and
humidity from the Florida air.
What they're doing right now is they're chilling the engines so that the
Looks like at this
they're
moment
able
we're
to
a little
handle
more than
the
90%
super
full
cold
on the
liquid oxygen in
oxidizer on the first
RP1
stage,
as it
ticking up
enters
towards
the
that
engines.
80% mark
So
on the
you'll see
second
more and more
stage.
steam coming off of
Counting
the
down
the
all the way
booster.
till about 2 or 3 minutes, as
And I was
John
wrong.
just
It's
said,
not T-minus
until
10 minutes. It's
everything is
T-minus
loaded.
5
Heaters
minutes
closing
when
out.
Dragon goes to internal power.
we will be go for
So we're
launch.
about to approach that.
Just about to hit that now.
Dragon has transitioned to configure for terminal count.
There you go. Dragon's on.
Vehicle tanks pressing for strong back retract.
Yes!
Turbo
Come
pumps.
on.
They need to chill the turbo pumps. Right. That's what you have to do. But yeah, she's one cold rocket right now.
We're going to open the clamp arm around the second stage.
By the way, to
Begin to
anybody,
retract
of
the
course,
strong
I haven't
back.
done any shout-outs yet. Thank you for the super chats. That
We'll
is
move
much
back about 2
appreciated.
degrees. That'll get us to the liftoff position. At liftoff, the strong
Was a
back
bit
will
busy.
then recline about 45
Strong
degrees
back
away.
retract.
We're currently looking at about 1,100 people on Marcus's stream,
Stage 2, RP1 blue.
3,200 people on What About It, and
Launch
a
director called out the strong
small
back
but
retract has
powerful
started. On the
362.
left,
And I
you'll see
need more
it go
space,
back just
so.
a couple of degrees.
Yeah, so it's
Stage
around 5,000-ish people watching right now
Yeah,
with
so
us.
that's about 5,000 people watching live right now.
Thank you, everybody, for joining and watching. It means a lot.
Yeah.
It means a real lot.
Absolutely.
If you're not already, I'm going to say it now, go follow Scott Parazinski
Just 4
on
minutes
Twitter and on
away from
Instagram.
liftoff.
Puts up a
Again,
lot of
at
great
this moment,
content
Bob
and also
Doug are
just
really
a
just
great
laser
guy at
focused
Astro
on
Doc
those
Scott.
displays.
Thanks, TJ. Appreciate it.
They have
Absolutely.
insight directly into Dragon and the Falcon 9. They're able to see where their fuel loading is at, how everything's progressing.
Oh
down
my
with the
God,
count.
3. Oh my God. I can't wait for this to happen.
Who among you would fly? Would Would you take
Oh,
seats 1 or 4?
here, I would instantly. They
We're
wouldn't
gonna
have to
have
ask me
minutes
twice.
from launch.
Definitely.
And the
too.
strongback is now
Yeah,
reclining
just
away from
instantly.
the Falcon 9.
So the
I'd
strong
be,
back is
I'd be running for the rocket. I'm sorry.
So you see, the strong back is now pulling away from the booster, and now that the tanks are under pressure, the booster can completely support itself standing vertically. If not, if it didn't have any pressure in the tanks, it could potentially fall over. So that strong back pulls back, and the booster is just on its own, and there's the little claw at the top is also released. The top.
I'll go bleed.
Just like a
One
soda
question
can.
I get all the time actually is that it only comes back a little way. A lot of people get confused by that, thinking that it's supposed to come back further. It's not. It actually is only supposed to clear by just a bit.
Okay, we're at T-minus 2 minutes, 42 seconds.
Oh,
Stage 1 LOX load is closed
it
out.
just
Stage 2
reduced
will
me to
continue to load for about
144
another
P.
half a minute or so.
No.
Once we get the completion of Stage 2 LOX loading, we have to vent down the line, so you'll see another large
internal
white
power.
cloud
There we go.
coming off
Yep.
of the strong back.
Here we go.
That'll be normal. That'll happen.
This is when it
around
gets serious. I'm
T-minus
cockpit
1
for
minute
sure.
and 40 seconds. We're
2
going on
minutes 20.
internal power
2
now.
minutes 20. Absolutely awesome.
And my heart is
Away from the
pounding.
Stage 2 LOX load being complete. It's been almost 9 years since we've been in this position. A lot of work done by thousands of people to get to this point. All our eyes focused on 2 now.
Is that rain?
I was just about to say what.
Stage 2.
Yep, that's rain on one of the.
Propellant fills
Oh.
are complete.
Oh, okay.
I'm
So is
confused.
that? There's
is in
sunshine
auto
at the capsule though. Everybody's fine up there.
Stage 2 LOX load.
That was
complete.
really strange.
All fuel, all oxidizer on Falcon 9. 1 minute 34 seconds to go till launch.
Okay, and if you aren't already, go subscribe to Marcus House, youtube.com/Marcus House, and go subscribe to Felix's channel, What About It, youtube.com/WhatAboutIt. These guys put out great weekly space content, and if you like learning about especially SpaceX and what's going on with Starship,
T-minus 1.
they're awesome.
Incredible.
1 minute,
Oh my God.
50 seconds. Come on.
Falcon 9 is in startup. Dragon is in countdown. FTS is armed for launch.
You can hear everybody screaming at SpaceX right now at Hawthorne in the background.
Under a minute now, the FTS, the flight termination system, has been armed.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
30.
SpaceX Dragon.
I can't even
Go
say
for
anything.
launch.
This
Let's
is just like,
handle.
oh.
T-minus 20.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Come on, come on.
Go for launch.
Come on, baby.
Stage 1 tanks pressing for flight.
T-minus 15 seconds.
That's my 2-year-old son, by the way.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
Good luck, Bob and Doug.
0. Ignition.
Godspeed.
Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon. Go NASA.
Why is
Go
there nothing
SpaceX.
happening?
Godspeed.
Okay.
Oh, they're up, they're good!
America has launched.
Here we
So
go.
rises a new era of American spaceflight,
Go, go.
and with it
Is
the
nominal.
ambitions of a new generation continuing the dream. 20 seconds into flight, stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Yes. All right.
Look at that go.
T plus 30 seconds into this historic mission. Flying crew on board Dragon and Falcon 9, and look at them go.
They're looking good.
New chapter right here.
Absolutely awesome.
Just
And
let
1D
pass
throttle
max
down.
Q.
We're throttling down to get ready for the period of maximum dynamic pressure.
Cheese building.
We're in the throttle bucket.
All these goosebumps. My hair is standing up right now.
Same,
Reports say all
here.
systems are go.
I can't even say anything.
Vehicle is supersonic.
We've exceeded Mach 1 on the Falcon 9.
And 1D throttle up.
We're throttling back up to full power
All
as
right.
we're through max Q.
That's a really good sign.
Copy 1 Bravo.
Yep.
Great view from
We
inside.
heard that one Bravo call out. That's just
Oh,
the
just
second
about.
abort zone that they're in. They'll continue to be on this until the first stage has
go.
done its job.
Bob is
and they
just
switch
chilling.
over to the second. At this point, Bob and Doug pulling about 2.3 Gs, 2.3 times the Earth's gravity, already
love that
moving at
Doug
over
and Chill as it gets up
1,500
into the higher
miles per
atmosphere.
hour.
We've heard the call out for MVAC engine chill. That's getting the MVAC engine ready to light. That'll come at about 2:44 into
Stage
flight.
2 ready.
Right now, everything continuing to look good. Next major event coming up is going to be the
Let's
triple.
go. Let's go. Let's
We'll have
go.
main engine cutoff of the 9
Godspeed.
first stage engines.
Let's
stage
go, Chad.
Come on,
separation,
baby. Main
and then
engine cut-off
ignition of
coming
the
up.
second stage engine to continue to carry astronauts into orbit.
Look at that view.
Coming up in about 20 seconds.
Oh my
And
god,
one
oh
D
my
throttle
god,
down.
oh my god, oh my god.
There are so many firsts in this mission. So many.
We heard we're throttling
cut
down
off.
the Merlin engines
There you go.
on the first stage.
And stage 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, Miko.
And we have
Engine
Miko.
light. Yes.
Miko.
2 Alpha. Falcon stage separation confirmed.
There we go.
Yes.
Beautiful.
There we go.
Copy 2 Alpha.
I mean, normally for me at this time it would be all about watching the booster come down. Couldn't care less.
Yeah.
about
Couldn't care
the
less.
booster,
Couldn't care less about the
It can go-
booster. Same
They
here.
could crash in the ocean. I don't care. Thank you.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Come on, Bob and Doug. Look
Oh,
at them there.
great angle
Yeah,
here of
stage
them. This is
separation
great.
confirmed. The first stage beginning its flight back. The second stage being powered by that single Merlin 1D vacuum engine has ignited
And they're in
and
space.
is now
Acquisition of signal
carrying
loss.
Bob
Oh, they in space
and
now.
Doug
They
into
are
orbit.
full in
Just
Yeah.
space.
continue on the power
just
of this
passing
second stage.
7,000
Propulsion is
kilometers an
nominal.
hour.
Absolutely.
Cut off at
Awesome.
SECO, or second engine cut off at about 8 minutes and 44 seconds into today's flight. So
I
a
would
little
love
over
to see
5
that
minutes
booster
to go
land, though.
still
That would be.
on this.
There are
second
so
stage.
many
yeah,
firsts
yeah.
in this
Two
mission. So
Alpha,
many.
So they're now in the longest
Just a little
abort zone that
tiny
carries
screen in the
them
bottom would be
all the way
enough for
from
me
about
for
North
that.
Carolina up
I'm just
the
watching
Yeah, just
Doug.
like,
board,
ding,
almost to
there you go.
Canada. Things looking good though.
They're
getting
probably
good
gonna put it in
call-outs,
full
phenomenal
speed, I
propul-
think.
propulsion on
This
that
is
second
absolutely
stage.
incredible, right?
Bob and Doug continuing to make
Culmination of
their
years
way
and
to
years of work. This is amazing.
They can't be feeling much G now. I mean, they're looking pretty relaxed there.
G's
Yeah,
taper
they
off
are.
at
Nominal
and it'll
trajectory.
build back up.
Yeah, yeah. If you actually keep your eye on the speed, you'll see that by the time this engine cuts off, they are accelerating extremely quickly. It
Right
is
here,
gradual at
nominal
this point.
trajectory, so Dragon pointed in the right direction, continuing to make their
8,000
flight uphill.
kilometers an hour.
Third acquisition of signal.
We are,
Absolutely
Bermuda,
incredible.
it's pointed in the right
ground
direction,
stations.
so
They're
we're
using
doing
the
good so
telemetry
far.
and data back from
There's
the
a cloudy
spacecraft.
sky here, by the way, so
Propulsion
there's
nominal.
no chance for me to see Demo
Oh,
Mission 2
stage
pass
2.
over.
Yeah, I was going to fly over Germany.
Yeah, it is gonna fly. I'm
still
I'm
going
in
to.
southern Germany too, so it would be perfect, like 90 degrees overhead. But it's all cloudy, so I won't be able to see it. I don't even bother.
Not too bad.
Yeah, I would have run outside for sure. Like waving goodbye. Awesome.
A little over 4 minutes, 40 seconds into the flight.
Look at that
Bob
booster
and Doug
shot.
flying at more
I
than
just love that
5,600
booster
It looks like
miles
such a
per hour.
smooth
Nominal
ride.
trajectory.
I'll never forget looking at shuttle
Already
footage
almost
when
200 miles
when
downrange.
the solid rocket boosters
Kennedy
turn on.
SpaceX.
You just start
Nominal
shaking
trajectory.
like crazy.
Continuing.
You know, I'm curious what launch was like for these guys.
Yeah, you felt like you were inside of the dry cycle, you know, and with your line rate. The first stage on the shuttle, it just looks so smooth. It looks, you know, like glass for sure.
Yeah. Nothing's
And
shaking.
while they continue uphill, looks like we are getting a view of the first stage as well.
Yeah, so it looks like they're out over
On your right screen, you
like
can
Nova
see
Scotia
that first stage
potentially
with the
right
grid
now,
fins
or
deployed.
getting to
It's
the North
making
Atlantic.
its way back to attempt to land on our drone ship. Of course, I Still Love You today.
Absolutely incredible.
And we're just about a minute.
I mean, we are seeing
minutes
just
away
the
from
most awesome
entry
technology
burn,
here.
that's where
And for anyone that
3
is
of the
brand new to this,
9
hasn't
Merlin
seen these
engines
boosters
do
land, you're going to see
ignite
something
help
here in a
slow the
second.
vehicle down
Oh, yeah.
as it re-enters back
If
into
you're
What I
the
just
always-
getting
atmosphere.
introduced, we got some
And
more
then
fireworks
after
for you.
the entry burn will be the landing
Yeah.
burn, which
Extra
is just
credit.
a single
Dragon
engine burn.
SpaceX nominal trajectory.
What I always think when I see this perspective
And you
from
heard
over their shoulders
Nominal
towards the
starting tilt
displays, I always think
As
under
I
it there
call
should
out,
be
they
a
are
windshield.
still on a nominal
know?
trajectory on Dragon.
Oh, absolutely.
Still on second stage, and that's that MVAC engine on second stage on your left screen.
Again, on your right screen is that first
So the entry
stage
burn
booster
obviously is
coming
when they
back
slow the booster enough to
towards
re-enter the
our drone
atmosphere,
ship. Of course,
because the
SLW. We're
booster's
about a
still
minute
moving
away
incredibly
from
fast,
entry
and
burn.
if they didn't slow it down, it would burn
Meanwhile,
up.
that second stage continuing to
even
power
though
It
it's-
wouldn't burn
Dragon
up, it would
into
destroy a
orbit.
lot of the components
Again,
of
if
it.
you're keeping an eye on that timer, that's
Even
gonna
though it's
continue to
moving much
burn until
slower
8
than the
minutes
second
and
stage
44
is right
seconds
now,
Oh,
it would
yeah.
still be too
So a
much
little
to
over
get
2
it down
minutes from
healthy.
Now we'll hear the call
Absolutely.
out Seco. It'll then be a little
So just
under
take a look at the
3
speed
minutes,
counter there in
a
the
little over
bottom
3
left.
minutes until Dragon
It's
physically
ticking up
separates
much
from the
faster now,
second
just
stage
about to
of the
pass
Falcon
15,000 kilometers an hour.
Dragon
It's got to
gets
go
that
right up
second
to, what, 27-ish thousand?
Yeah. Bob and Doug are going fast.
Continuing to check in with Bob and Doug.
Bring back
They
the
are
Bob and
on
Doug
a
shot.
nominal trajectory. Just about 10 seconds away from that first stage. Starting that entry burn on your right screen, we should be able to see that view live.
Stage 1 entry burn startup.
Right down the corridor.
Yep.
And there is that entry burn beginning.
There we go. Entry burn.
Entry burn.
This burn lasts about 36 seconds long.
It looks like
Stage 2
a perfect
MTS
mission
is
so
safe.
far. So this now looks like a typical Starlink launch.
While that entry burn continues, we're just
Yeah.
about a minute away from Seco.
That doesn't
We'll have
anymore.
A number of events all happen in rapid
No,
succession.
that almost looked like a bit of a
It'll be the second engine cutoff.
change of
We'll
direction
be
there.
looking for that stage
Yep.
1 landing burn.
Yeah, look at it. Look at
shortly
the
after.
grid
Actually,
fins.
just within a few seconds of each other.
Although it's smoothed out
Such
now.
a cool view on your left screen, seeing Bob and Doug on Dragon.
Going down right
Obviously-
through
Now
the
you can
crowd.
see the
Obviously,
displays
this is
that
just
they are
icing on the
seeing
cake
right
to
now
land on the booster.
themselves.
You know, it'd be great for them to do it. I'm
back,
still
Alpha.
watching Bob and Doug's screen though.
You know, it would be really fantastic.
We are
I'll
coming
put it.
up
I'll drop this in the
25
suggestion
seconds
box at
or so
SpaceX
away
for them to
from
have.
Seco, or second
I have
engine
us to
cutoff.
be able to see these screens that the crew are seeing.
Also the
I'm
point
just so
where
curious.
Bob and Doug are
Yeah.
experiencing their highest G-force.
And this is
We're seeing the
typical
count
for
The
of
those
in-flight
watching.
entertainment.
when
In-flight
you-
We're just about to
entertainment.
have engine cutoff on the
Shannon, so that
second
just means
stage
they're in
there.
their final abort zone.
As I
If
said,
they
just
were
coming
to
up there to
abort at this point,
27,000
that would
kilometers
be
an
an
hour,
abort
and
to
bang,
or to land
For
they're
folks-
in orbit.
For folks watching, it's yeah. When it gets 27, that's going to punch off here.
And back throttle step. And back shut down.
And yep, there you go.
Icing on the cake, hopefully.
27,000, 12
Confirmation
kilometers
of
per hour.
Seco's second engine
Okay,
cutoff.
so here comes the landing. It's typical to
Now
have
we're
the
waiting for our
feed
first
cut out
stage
when you
to
get close
make its
to
way
the
to our drone
ground,
ship.
just
Of
because of
course,
the rate
I
of
said
There
speed.
we go.
SpaceX nominal orbital insertion.
There we go.
Didn't get
escape system
confirmation
is
of
disarmed.
nominal
Dragon
orbital
copy.
insertion.
Nominal
Stage
orbital
1 landing like
insertion.
deploy.
We've got Bob
Pretty
and Doug
shaky
still
boat.
What
there.
you're seeing on your screen is a
The
Boat
live
is
view
shaking.
of our
stable
drone ship,
launch escape system
Yes.
is disabled.
where our first stage will be
There we
coming
go.
down.
The drone, the booster has landed as well.
Looks like we lost.
You're
our
ahead of
last
us,
view.
Absolutely
Marcus.
textbook.
We'll wait for
Home run.
confirmation of that landing shortly here.
Awesome.
So it did land. Yay!
And there you can see on your screen, Falcon 9 has
Yeah, there we go.
landed.
Now I can see it too. I'm
This
sorry,
is the
I'm a
first
bit
Falcon 9
delayed.
to carry
But there we go.
humans
Booster
to
landed.
orbit, so
Awesome.
very exciting for us.
That thing belongs
And
in a
as you can
museum
see on
when
your
it's
right
done.
screen, Bob and Doug are
Absolutely.
still making
Smithsonian
their
for
way
sure.
to their
Yeah.
targeted orbit.
First reusable rocket to get somebody.
So exciting
It's-
today.
I'm floored. This
Yeah,
is.
so
It doesn't stop.
So
does not
we were
stop.
chattering. They're in a
Alright, we
stable
did- we
orbit,
did
and the
hear
launch
again that
escape
call out
system
to
has been
orbital
disabled.
insertion, so that means
Hey, I just saw
Falcon 9 and Dragon right now exactly where
we
they're
just saw the
supposed
zero
to
G
be.
indicator go floating
And
around.
we need a FRC.
Absolutely.
What a huge moment.
And it's right at about 12
Absolutely
minutes
awesome.
when Dragon
Ah.
will separate.
They're on
So
cloud
now-
10 right
Looks like we saw a zero
Yeah,
G
now-
indicator.
Now
floating
comes a
around there,
lot
and Bob
of
and Doug
stuff
owe
they
us
have to do.
a little bit about what exactly that
Yeah, there's
is
still a
that they
few
brought
steps,
up
but
with
congratulations, SpaceX. I mean, this is a huge deal, and just
Yeah.
a massive deal. I can't even really comprehend
And before
what
separation,
we've just witnessed.
before
Actually,
Dragon
it's
initiates separation from the second stage, they do make
it's
sure
extraordinary.
to
Absolutely
make,
awesome.
they do
SpaceX
ensure that the
and also
vehicle is not
NASA
spinning and it is in
and
good
international partners.
condition
But getting to
before
this point,
we
it's
separate.
incredible.
That's right. The upper
Yep.
stage does small
Oh,
attitude maneuver
absolutely.
using
And I shouldn't cut
cold
NASA
gas
out of that comment that
thrusters
I made.
built into the rocket
We-
body
obviously, we
itself.
watch a lot of booster landings from SpaceX, SpaceX, I automatically go to SpaceX as being
Exactly. So we
the
do
ownership
expect
of
that
this, which is
separation
obviously
to
not the
occur in
case.
about
It's
a
a
minute
huge
from now,
partnership,
but
and SpaceX couldn't
they
be
do
where they
wait
are with
until
this
they
vehicle
have full
without
confirmation that
NASA.
it
No
is
way.
ready to separate.
Looks like we just had a quick view of the trunk section they accidentally cut to.
Yeah.
Such cool views.
I did spot that.
cannot get over this view that we are seeing right now.
Does anybody know
Bob and
if
Doug
there's a
on
story
the right
behind the
screen,
zero-G
inside of
indicator?
Crew
It's like
Dragon,
some sparkly
out
dinosaur.
In space.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's actually
people
the
have
first time
200
I've seen that,
kilometers
actually.
over planet
Now
Earth.
people have already found it. What it is? It's a tiny whatever. They have found the brand, spotted what kind it is, and that's probably gonna go out of stock in the next 2 hours or so.
Yeah. I know. As soon as the launch happened, and I've got the last zero-G guy here, and,
Yeah.
it took me like 4 or 5 months to get this guy.
Yeah. Like the people who make this dinosaur are gonna be so happy right now.
They will, and they'll also be out of stock and dealing with a lot of anxious customers. Oh, look, deployment.
We're getting ready to deploy here.
Lost a signal with one of the ground stations.
Wow,
Waiting
look
for
at that. That is
confirmation
such
now
an
if
awesome
that's
shot of it too.
Beautiful.
Dragon separation confirmed.
There is a
Beautiful.
great
That looks
view
sci-fi.
right in
Could be
front
the
of you
best
of
deployment
dragons
I've seen.
separating.
confirmed.
And
We're
there's
such a
that
fanboy.
call
It's
out.
just a beautiful. I know.
Dragon
yeah.
is
That's
now officially
just the
making
most
its way
beautiful
to
shot.
the International
The lighting
Space
there is
Station
just
today.
perfect for it.
Yeah, it's incredible. Just incredible.
Dragon SpaceX, with that separation call, we have a few words for you from our Falcon 9 team.
The only thing I'm not sure about is why these streams with NASA come across as 720p instead of 1080p.
Dragon, Chief Engineer,
We always
Dragon to
have.
ground.
I know.
Bob
I
Doug,
don't know.
on
I don't
behalf of the
understand
entire
why.
launch team, thanks for flying with
a
Falcon
whole
9
other
today.
story.
We hope you enjoyed the ride and wish you a great mission.
Thanks, Bala. Congratulations to you and the F9 team for the first human ride for Falcon
That looks like a scene
9.
from 2001.
And it was incredible.
That is just
appreciate all the hard work and thanks for the great ride to space.
There's a screen view.
Oh, and Mike, proud of you guys and the rest of the team. Thank you so much for what you've done for us today, putting
Beautiful,
America
beautiful.
back into low Earth orbit from the Florida coast.
Copy all. Good luck. Godspeed.
That's great. So now
All
they're
right,
just
so Bob and
moving down the
Doug are
checklist.
in
Dragon
space.
SpaceX, we confirm nominal Eclipse activation and service section Draco checkouts. Nose cone deploys in progress.
yeah. They have a whole
Copy all.
program
We're
of stuff
monitoring.
ahead of them before they dock with the ISS.
The core here in Hawthorne giving the crew
Yeah, a lot of tests to
heads
do in
up
pre-flight before they actually dock.
that we have confirmation the nose cone
Yeah.
is deploying.
A lot
so
of
again,
stuff
that
to
nose
do.
cone is going to open up a little bit more than 90
I
degrees.
love that
Goes
they're
up to
staying
about,
on
I
this
think,
other
105
angle so we
degrees.
can see
And
Dragon
that's
from
gonna
the
expose,
outside.
Yeah.
I wonder
it's
how
docking
such a
ring
great
and the
shot.
hatch that they're going to
Yeah,
be
I wonder
going
how
it
to
soon
looks-
they're going to start
attached to
working
the
on
International Space
those
Station,
maneuvers
and
that
also
Doug is
4 of
scheduled
those
to
Draco
do. I'm not
thrusters
sure where
become
that is
the
in their
forward
timeline.
bulkhead thrusters that are going to be
Looks
used
straight
for
out of
these
a
major
sci-fi movie.
phase burns or firings of those thrusters to actually raise
Yeah, the
them
helmets kind of look like
gradually
2001
over the
Space
coming
Odyssey.
hours.
Yeah.
But that was
They do a little.
Also
Yeah.
heard good activation of the Eclipse. That's the
Incredible
environmental
effort.
control and
Absolutely
life support
surreal.
system. That's everything
Very,
controlling their
very well done.
atmosphere. Just keeping Dragon a nice, safe, habitable environment
They've actually
where
done
they're
it.
going to be living for the next 19 hours until they arrive at the space station.
Right, exactly. And
Private company.
Falcon 9's job may be
Reusable
done for
rocket,
today, but
brand
the
new
mission
capsule.
is not over.
Wow.
Crew Dragon's job
You know?
is not done. As you can see,
And
Bob
they've
and Doug
even
are
been
still
driven
inside
to
Crew
the
Dragon,
pad
making their
with
way. It will be a
Teslas.
19-hour
And
trip
that
to
is
the
the
International
From the
coolest
same
Space
guy.
Station
I mean, come
before
on.
they
I'm so
dock
jealous.
tomorrow
The Astroman
morning.
was an old motorhome, you know,
Mhm.
a 1980s motorhome.
And such
Yeah.
cool
Def-
views.
definitely
I love that we can
upgraded
get
quite a
these
bit.
live views
Definitely.
here and see
Yeah.
and watch what they're doing.
Now I've
now that
driven
they
the Model
are in
3 today.
orbit.
First time I've
It's
ever driven
incredible
a
to just be
Tesla,
looking
and
over
it
their
is.
shoulder to be
Well,
along
this is
for the
totally
ride.
off topic, but that's an amazing car if you haven't driven one yet.
And we're going to be with
It's
them.
definitely worth it.
And we're going to be with all of you the entire way for their journey to the space station. We're going to be covering live throughout. Bob and Doug will obviously have a sleep period where they'll get about 8 hours of
This is
sleep.
the first
a
of
little bit
hundreds,
later
if not
today
thousands of
before
launches
they
of
wake up
this
for all of
capsule.
their final approach.
Pretty exciting to
One of
think
the
of how
major
it's gonna
things
open
we
up
are
the
looking
heavens.
forward to in the next couple of hours is going to be their first turn.
Yeah,
at
and
the
obviously the
controls.
stay
So they're
up on
actually
the
going to
station
be
for
using
Bob and
those
Doug is a little
touchscreen
unknown
displays to
how
take
long that's
control
going
and
to be. They're
manually
obviously
pilot
trying
Dragon.
to
We'll walk you
make sure
through
that the
what that's going to
preparations
look
for
like, and
the
assuming
actual
we have
next
some good
launch
ground station coverage, we'll
with
be
this
able to
same
get views
vehicle is
right
is
inside
going to
Dragon.
be. It's going to be it's going to be really interesting knowing how that's progressing.
So
something I've cut to right now, you'll see on the regular SpaceX feed, you're just looking at the nozzle, but right now you can see Elon's getting interviewed by television crew here, and also they are cutting in launch control to looks like the stage 2 fuel tank, so you can see the fuel just kind of floating around in there. And then they are occasionally cutting to other angles that they haven't shown in the stream for inside the cabin. I'm hoping that they come up on screen again here. Looks like they're having some trouble getting a good acquisition of signal.
And we're going to send it over
Yeah.
to KSC to continue broadcasting live with you.
But yeah, they're basically now just showing this and.
Yeah, Jesse and Dan, we are just in awe.
Oh man, I guess they're done showing those other angles. I wish I cut to that sooner. But just look at launch control here. I'm gonna try to go back to the launch, but there's the pad. Matt, look at that view.
Wow.
Oh, that just must have been such an amazing sight from there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, wow.
I've driven by that building. I wasn't in it, but I've driven by several times.
Well, I'm sure Scott's been in it several times. So
yeah,
probably, yeah.
It's so strange to have this monumental launch, and unfortunately because of the pandemic, the hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people who would have flocked to the Cape, couldn't see it. But thankfully we have the web and these great tools to be able to share it with one another. But I would have definitely flown down there to see this launch. It's one that I was there for STS-135, the last shuttle launch, and I'd hoped to be here today for this one, but they made the right call.
Yeah,
well, if all goes well, we'll have another launch in August, right? For the first, like, not that Bob and Doug aren't real crew, but the first, for Crew 1.
Yep.
Which will have 4 astronauts on board, and the timing of Bob and Doug's return is going to be pending. What do you call it? How this mission goes, and when Crew 1 is going to be ready. So Bob and Doug are going to be on station now. I mean, if all goes well with the docking and everything, for the next couple months, probably till the end of August. And when the Crew 1 vehicle and crew are ready, that'll be their timing. I'm guessing that they're going to have to dock to the same port on station, so they probably would come back a week or so prior to Crew 1.
It's crushing my ear.
Yeah.
Oh, they can't use the other docking port for the second SpaceX Dragon.
I would think that they technically could. I don't know if they are planning on it, because there's the 2 international docking adapters, right?
Right.
Yep.
And they're right now docking to the one that shuttle would dock to, typically.
Right.
So
I'm not sure. I'm not sure of the plan on that actually. What's interesting as well, just while we're talking, we've got Jim Bridenstine having an interview as well, which I'm also trying to keep a bit of an ear out for.
Things the president did right out of the gate when he became president is he
what I was
created
going to
what's
say
called
is it's interesting to just take note of the names of the missions. So it's caused a lot of confusion, and I've got a number of people that are saying, hang on a minute, isn't this Mission 2? Wouldn't the next one be Mission 3? The next one's Crew 1, even though we've already had Demo 1. This is Demo 2, then we've got Crew 1. So Crew 1 is next.
I was hoping for a little bit catchier name than Crew 1 or...
I was too. I was too.
Especially if they continue it like this, it's going to be Crew 1, Crew 2, Crew 3, Crew 4.
Right. Well, I mean, we are coming from the folks who came up with Space Transportation System as the... So, I mean, crew, Space Transportation System, Space Launch System, like, I guess they're very practical terms. So...
Yes. Yeah, they are.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that Bob and Doug are not going to get any more screen time for a while. Probably next time we see them, they'll be out of their pressure suits, floating about the cabin.
Probably, yeah.
They probably turn off the cameras to get out of their suits, I'd imagine. So yeah, that they may have the ability to downlink, but I'd imagine they're going to turn off the cameras for a little bit so that they can get settled.
Yeah, gotta get changed, and also there's we were talking about these kind of details in the last stream where they have a checklist of going into every door and cabinet in the cabin and actually seeing if they open properly, how it's actually like the little detailed things all around the cabin, that if they're functioning properly in 0G, and taking notes on how to adjust them for crew 1 if they need adjustments. So they are going to be, while they're on their way to station, functionally going through and just, you know, kind of just pushing all the buttons literally and figuratively around the cabin so that they can see if they need to make any adjustments prior to crew 1's launch.
But
that's part of a flight test plan is checking every box and having a methodical way to verify that every subsystem is working properly. Yep.
Yeah. Didn't NASA say something about they are going to provide a live feed of all their operations in the capsule, though? I mean, besides getting out of the suits, of course, and private time and stuff like that.
Looks like Elon is giving a big speech right now. I don't know what they're saying, but he's been raising his hands and talking to everybody. I'm sure he's amped.
Yeah, he is.
End zone touchdown dance right now, for sure.
Yeah. And he just walked off camera. You can see, though, in the monitors here, they are looking at Bob and Doug still.
Yep.
So it looks like they're still in the seats.
Yeah.
Yeah, wow. Elon, I kind of envision, you know, what, like those interviews you see in sports when the players are walking off the field and they're asking him, like, okay, how do you feel? Like, I really want someone to have a camera on him right now.
Yeah.
You know, like, there he is.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
know?
the whole SpaceX team must just be on cloud 9. Absolutely. I mean, this is 20 years in the making, getting to this point. And as even he himself said the other day in the interview, he never thought that they would get this far. From those first moments launching Falcon 1, this must just be an absolute dream come true for not only him but the entire agency.
Yeah, and here we have on the top right here, we have another angle of Bob and Doug that I don't think we've seen since they were on the ground. But they're depressurized. They have their helmets up and they've got their hands out, so the gloves are no longer on.
Yeah, I'd imagine they're going to stay in their suit until they perform their circularization burn. I think they do a second burn, so there's still a chance that they, you know, God forbid, might have to come back home in an emergency. But once they perform that next burn, after that would be the time that they would get out of their suits.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Man, imagine being in this conversation here, like talking to the chief designer of this whole system, and like this is going to change space exploration for as we know it forever.
Yeah.
It's like talking to it's like talking to Werner von Braun or something after the Saturn V goes off, you know.
Yep,
but like just think about that.
He's extremely happy. You can just tell he's much more relaxed than he was the other day.
Oh man.
Awesome effort. How many people have been working for this?
So there is a post-launch conference coming up. That'll be a different stream by the sounds of it.
Copy that. I'll see if I can tap into that. That'll probably be coming straight from NASA, and not from SpaceX.
Incredible. Just incredible.
So I've just got a little highlight reel coming up here, I think. Let's crank that up. Here we go. It is beautiful.
To orbit on U.S. soil.
Wow, we're making history.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Let's go.
And it's buffering.
But Tesla may go to their speed as well.
I hope we get a nice high def version of this footage that they're showing right now.
I'm sure they will. I mean, NASA Public Affairs has been on their game. This is just such great promotion for them and beautiful footage.
Dragon, go NASA, go SpaceX, Godspeed, Bob and Doug.
Look at that.
Ah!
There it goes.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. And you know, this is it's step one.
What a great
of
shot!
this.
Look at that.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that's epic.
Yeah, with the VAB in the background, in the foreground, absolutely awesome.
Wow, what a afternoon, morning, wherever
Great
you
day.
are. What
Great
a
day, guys.
day!
Yeah.
What a day! And now that that's sort of cut, it's interesting to sort of think about the significance, I guess, of this mission being one of so many. And like a few of you have already touched on before, this is the start. In my opinion, this is the start of a new space race. It really is. To lower the cost of space access, it is going to accelerate what we can do.
Yeah, I liken it to the barnstorming era of commercial human spaceflight. You know, bringing those barriers down, making it accessible for many, many more people. Greater usage. Yeah, this is a new chapter.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, as time goes on, cost will come down. You know, obviously there's new vehicles in development at the moment, which are ongoing to further reduce the cost of access to space and essentially getting mass to orbit. And all these things move us in a direction where we can be on the moon permanently, we can be on Mars permanently. You know, it's interesting that we haven't managed to have that drive for the last 40 years or so to really accelerate this, but now we seem to be in a real race to get there, and it's so exciting to watch. Obviously, I'm too young to have witnessed Apollo and these significant achievements, and to see us heading here again in that direction is so inspiring. And for anybody that's watching at the moment that is just as inspired by this, let me know, or let us all know. We've got 3 streams running. Let us all know in the comments what inspires you the most about this, because this, to me, is really the start of a whole new era for humanity, really, when it comes down to it.
Marcus, I think you just called me old. I'm not sure, but I'm pretty sure you did.
No, I did.
You're experienced.
Yeah. No, I can you imagine? There's so many young people who grew up without even the space shuttle program to kind of inspire them. So this is the catalyst for them. And now that there's bipartisan support for the space program, we're going back to the moon and with a real view towards colonizing Mars even. So the future is so bright for young people right now if they want to have a role in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You've hit the nail right on the head there. It really is. It's an extremely exciting time.
I've called it on one of my episodes as well, that there are like at least 2 generations now, maybe even 3 generations who haven't had their Neil Armstrong moment yet, and they're going to be blown away once that happens, because that's it's a special thing.
And you know, with all the new technology we've got, like we're going to see things in full 4K footage, all this sort of stuff. It's going to be just incredible. Everything that we've seen in the past, from the amazing footage from the Apollo missions, which is still incredible. But just imagine what we're going to be able to capture with new technology in the next few years. It's just going to be incredibly exciting to watch that play out.
Yeah.
I do
Don't
want
even know what to say about that.
To something really quick for you all to react to. The angle is going to have you off screen for a second, but if you're watching on our chat, you should be able to watch it. I found the time of when the Falcon 9 was lifting off from launch control, and you can just see everybody get on their feet and clapping and Elon celebrating. So we're just going to cut to I'm just going to cut to this really quick, because I think that this is a really special moment for us to
good plan
to see. So oh, there's my OBS. So they're counting down. There we go, it's off. And just highlights are a little blown out in the distance, but you can see that dot in the distance, the Falcon 9 taking off. You know. Just absolutely crazy. Just absolutely crazy. I highly recommend going back and watching that if you can. I know that there's a press conference about to begin, but with how giddy everybody is right now, they might be a little flexible on time.
Yeah, soon to find out. And look, I just want to say thank you again to all of you for being here on this stream today. It really is amazing to share this with you. It really is. It actually.
Agreed.
I almost started to tear up as the engine cut off, actually, and it means a huge amount to me that I was able to share it here with all of you. It's really amazing, and thank you very much, TJ, for being the mastermind behind organising all these windows. I don't even comprehend how you're doing it. If anyone's not subscribed to I Need More Space, go and do that. If anyone hasn't liked all of the streams going on, please do that. It makes a huge difference.
Control
to
team
people
here
that
in
see it.
Hawthorne, the space station flight.
It means a lot that we've got all of you here supporting us.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's just awesome. Scott, you being here has been great.
Thanks for inviting me.
Hopefully this was fun. I know this was kind of a last-second ask, but, a unique way to spend your time watching this historic moment. Looks like SpaceX is now going over... this is actually not on the SpaceX feed. This is on the NASA feed for folks who... And, of course, I have the wrong angle up.
Like TJ was saying, though, Scott, thank you so much for being here. Like, I must admit, I kind of had rumors that you were joining, but I wasn't sure. And then when I saw you pop in, I'm like, oh my god, oh my gosh!
Oh, it's been a blast sharing this experience with you. This is
thank you.
Certainly a day that I'll never forget, and it's great to share it with other people who love the space program. Exciting things are ahead for sure.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. And I actually haven't done a tally on how many people are watching. I had 2,000 in my stream here a moment ago. How's everybody else going for their streams?
On NASA had 1.2 million at one point. So that's great. And I know, Felix, you had several thousand in yours at the peak. You did great. It looks like they have a little.
It is just an incredibly important thing to happen today. So I mean, the 1.2 million on the NASA stream says it all. That's people from all over the world. All the news outlets everywhere around the world have been broadcasting about this for days. The German television never is interested in space normally. There's nothing about space on the news. And they've had that first thing in the morning on Wednesday. The first thing they showed to everybody waking up was, people, watch this. So that's how important this is, and it's absolutely incredible how many people showed up tonight, how many people showed up on Wednesday, even though it was a scrub. It shows how many people are actually interested in all of this, which is the best thing that could happen. So because the more the public is interested in this, the more we can achieve. The more people we can get into this, the more talent we can get into this, and the further we'll go. As simple as it is.
That's right. And exactly the same for me. We had coverage all over Tasmania, of this stuff, which is actually almost unheard of. We're way down, way down. Most people wouldn't even know where Tasmania is. A little island down the bottom of Australia, for those of you trying to look it up on a map. It's incredibly humbling to see the news covering it like this right now. And I hope they continue to do so, because everybody that's watching now, everybody that does this,
you found it.
It's just incredible.
So if you're watching my stream,
you just found the dinosaur.
It's been found, but it's sold out at Barnes & Noble already.
There you go.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah. So anybody that's trying to get hold of that, just
and that $8.99,
the aqua pink
$8.99 is going to go up real quick.
Yeah, they can even jump an aqua/pink sequin dinosaur.
Good name.
Let's see. Now I'm gonna see if we can find it anywhere else. Amazon, maybe not. Oh, these are the wrong ones. All right, I'm gonna have to spend some time digging that up.
Oh, he's shopping. Look at that.
Well, looks like they have a couple burns coming up. They have a phase burn, a boost burn. And then they want to just cut away on me. Thank you, SpaceX. 1 second.
Do we have a rough idea on timeline for all these different events? Are they actually saying that?
I'm on holiday. I'm not on
Typically
duty.
The timeline on this graphic is not clear. It's just talking about the altitudes. It goes phase burn, boost burn, close co-elliptical burn, then a transfer burn, then a final co-elliptical burn, approach initiation, and then dock with station. So they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 6 or 7 burns ahead of them before they get to station.
In the next 19 hours or so, yeah.
Yeah.
So
unreal.
Yeah, a lot of stuff to do.
Oh man, this is just awesome. Well, gentlemen. Oh, go ahead. I don't know if there's much else for me to really add here. I don't know if you guys want to stay hanging on. But
I was kind of wanting to see if we get an Elon Musk interview actually at some point, but I don't see it anyway. I've just been searching around to see.
Yeah,
we're celebrating right now.
He'll be part of the press conference, I'm sure. This is a big day for him, so he'll show up here shortly.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously it's going to be extremely interesting watching the different events play out as we get close to the station. There'll be another live stream for that, similar to what we saw with Demo 1. I'm not 100% sure whether the docking will be completely automated or whether they are. I mean, I know that they're going to be testing the manual controls and things like that on their way.
Yeah, the docking will be automated.
I'm assuming the docking itself is going to be fully automated, assuming nothing goes wrong. And it's going to be really interesting to watch that process. So that's going to be happening. My time zones are all out of whack with everybody there. It's tomorrow morning, local time, US.
Yeah, I think 20 hours, isn't it?
19, 20 hours from launch, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'm looking right now.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very exciting. The whole journey towards the ISS, and then including them opening the hatch and getting in and everything. There's going to be exciting moments for the next 2 or 3 days, probably. So there's a lot of stuff to. I'm on holiday, so I will not cover it. So you two have to. But
enjoy that honeymoon of yours. Yeah.
Thank you. I wanted to say to Scott, it's absolutely amazing that you were able to make it tonight. It means so much to us that an astronaut who has, especially like you, who has done so many missions, is joining us humble little YouTubers tonight for this stream is absolutely incredible. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, it's been my pleasure and honor to be with you, and just like all of you, I'm just as excited to be part of this as anyone in the community. So if I can ever help you again in the future, let me know. I'd love to join you. This has been a really special day, and I think it's going to be a great mission ahead. And I can't wait to get these guys back home and have a safe landing and
bring the
then really open up bring the SpaceX Dragon capsule operational so that lots more people can fly it.
Yeah, absolutely. And like TJ said, when you first sort of joined the stream, we're not worthy, so thank you so much for coming on. It's just awesome. Really appreciate it. And let's hopefully we'll have, give it another good crack soon.
Absolutely. All the best, guys.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right, guys, I'm going to wrap up the stream here. Felix and Marcus, if you guys want to continue streaming on your channels, you can, but my brain is fried after managing this stream, so I am going to...
Thank you. We're going to stop as well, I think.
I'm going to go celebrate. Everybody, thank you for watching. I think this is the start of something really fun with us doing streams and stuff together, so, hopefully this is... We got Crew 1 to look forward to, and many more other milestones coming up with just DM-2. So, anyways,
yeah.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah, exactly right. Thank you everybody for joining us, and we'll hope to do it again soon. Thanks so much, Scott. Again, just can't believe you joined us.
Great to hang out with you guys. Awesome.
We'll hopefully talk to you soon.
Absolutely.
Thank you, everybody, and dream of starships blowing up.
All right.
Okay.